All right. Good evening, Virginia. Good evening to the rest of the country, everybody joining us from across the country. We are just days away from one of the most important votes of 2026. And tonight is about making sure that every single person watching understands exactly what's at stake here, because the reality is this is not politics as usual. Across the country, Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are working to rig the system before voters even cast their ballots in midterms, locking in power, silencing voters, and avoiding accountability. But Virginia has a chance right now to stop that by voting yes on the April 21st redistricting referendum. By the time that you're watching this, you will know that you have 3 full days left to vote. Tomorrow, April 17th, Saturday, April 18th, and Election Day, April 21st. And the referendum here is simple. It puts power where it belongs, with voters, and ensures that the midterms are decided on a level playing field. And the best part, Virginians are already stepping up. Early voting is happening right now, and it's already shattering records. But we need to keep that momentum going and help folks in Virginia who are not traditionally voting in April, used to voting in April, like ever, to understand what's at stake and why they should be voting yes. Tonight, you're going to hear from national leaders, elected officials, and some of the most powerful voices online, people who are reaching millions of Americans every day and helping break this moment down in real time. We're going to talk about what's happening, why it matters, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Before we jump in, let me say this clearly. If you're watching right now, here's exactly what you need to do. If you're in Virginia, go to iwillvote.com/VA right now to find your polling place and make your plan to vote. Early voting is happening tomorrow and Saturday, now known as Super Saturday in Virginia, or you can vote on Election Day, which is April 21st. And if you're watching from anywhere else, you can still make a huge difference tonight. You'll see a QR code on your screen throughout this program. You can scan that QR code to volunteer, to make calls, to chip in what you can, and even help turn out voters across Virginia in these last final days. So let's get into it. I want to throw to Abigail Spanberger, the governor of Virginia. Before serving as Virginia's governor, she represented Virginia in Congress, where she built a reputation as one of the most effective, bipartisan, and pragmatic voices on national security, on economic stability, and on protecting democratic institutions. Prior to that, she served as a CIA case officer, working on some of the most complex global threats facing the U.S. And now, as governor, after winning by 15 points in November, she is focused on lowering costs, defending fundamental rights, and ensuring that Virginia remains a place where voters, not politicians, hold power. Governor, thank you so much for being here. I want to also note that I'm joined not just by Governor Spanberger, but also Lee McGowan, who many of you know as Politics Girl. Lee has built a massive following by breaking down complex political issues into clear, direct, no-nonsense conversations that actually make people want to engage, not tune out. And she's reaching millions of Americans every day with a simple goal: get people informed, fired up, and involved. Thank you both for being here. I'm going to throw to you guys.
Thank you so much, Brian. And honestly, we can just do so much better than this, I think. Don't you think, Governor Spanberger? I mean, thanks for coming. This is a really big deal, what we're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is fabulous. I mean, listen, at the core, this referendum is about stopping a Donald Trump power grab. This is exactly what the MAGA Republicans are trying to do. They're trying to kind of stop the election before we've even started. So tell me how a yes vote in Virginia will stop this.
Well, Lee, we know that this all began when President Trump said that he was, quote, entitled to extra seats in Congress. That's where we saw Texas first launch into a redistricting process to begin to try and stack seats within the halls of Congress. And so now, as we have seen states take action, Virginia has the ability to do something responsive. Importantly, in Virginia, we have a 3-step process towards a referendum. And so our General Assembly, our legislature, has already voted twice now to move forward with a redistricting process. It is temporary until the next post-census redistricting, and it is responsive. Written in the language is that it's responsive to what's happening in other states. But the third step of the process is that the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia need to vote. And so a yes vote means that we are taking that responsive step to what we have seen other states do in response to a president saying he just thinks he's entitled to congressional seats.
Yeah, because that's not at all how our government is supposed to work. The president's not entitled to anything. No elected representative is entitled to anything. You're supposed to earn it from the voters. And I think we need to be clear with people that this isn't something anyone wants to do. It's something that needs to be done because we know that MAGA Republicans are already manipulating these congressional maps. We're talking about Texas and North Carolina. They're currently attempting to do it in other states like Missouri and Florida. But going to Virginia, this kind of gives us a chance to fight back.
Well, and you're right in terms of what we have to do versus where we want to be. Right. I think all
Yeah.
of us want to be in a place where we do not see a president trying to grab power. And in fact, in Virginia, just a few years ago, we passed a bipartisan redistricting amendment, which is why now to do this temporary redistricting, we actually need to do another referendum. I vocally supported that bipartisan redistricting commission. And importantly, important to me and important to many Virginians, is that this referendum, this temporary redistricting, preserves that bipartisan commission into the long term. And so after the next census, that bipartisan commission will come back online and do our next redistricting. But it's important that Virginia be responsive in this moment, and that is why this referendum, this yes vote on Tuesday, is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not just about being responsive, it's about being responsible to the voters. A vote yes. If you're voting yes in this referendum on the 21st, it's yes to approve these new congressional maps. But it's also yes that they will go back to the way that they were in 2030. And yes to stopping any sort of overreach or Trump's cheating. And yes to give voters and not politicians the final word here, which is really the goal. If the heads of government can set up who wins congressional votes so no one can hold them accountable, then the voters no longer have the say. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid here. As I understand it, there's already more than 1 million early votes that have been cast in this referendum. So what does that tell you about how people in Virginia are responding to this moment?
Well, in Virginia, a couple of years ago, our legislature passed expansive early vote. We have 45 days of early voting, which gives voters the opportunity to cast their ballots early and really ensure they have a plan to get to the polls. 1 million Virginians who have already voted is a consequential and important number. In Virginia, we don't register by party, so we don't have the sort of usual tabulations that other states might have when they can say X number of registered Democrats or X number of registered Republicans have already voted. But what we do know is that people in every corner of Virginia are getting out. They are voting. Certainly on the ground, there is a level of urgency and a level of resolve that people have, recognizing the importance of this referendum. We have 2 more days of early voting, and then Tuesday is the final day to vote. That is the day of the referendum. And I'm expecting that we will see huge numbers on Election Day as well.
Yeah, I've been talking to all of the people from my kitchen about this and how they have to get all of their friends in Virginia and their family in Virginia and their loved ones in Virginia all together, go as a group to the polls, because it needs to be everyone's voice that's heard. Because at the end of the day, it's the voters that should have the power to say who they want to have in Congress, to say what the majority should be in Congress. This is a way to sort of level the playing field for a limited time until we can kind of get it back in order again. But I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there, isn't there? Like a lot of money being poured into this race for the no vote to confuse Virginia voters about what they're voting for or what the yes vote means, purposely misusing your own words. So what does a yes vote actually do in plain English so that people understand that and they're not confused by, say, the $3 million Peter Thiel is throwing into, changing the vote?
Well, you are exactly right. For those who are not on the ground in Virginia, I'll just let you know that, in fact, we have seen the Campaign for No has used my face on TV and in mailers. They have used President Obama's face on TV and in mailers. And they have spoken of my prior support and continued support, to be clear, for our bipartisan redistricting amendment. They have talked about that, taking quotes out of context. But I've been very clear. I have already early voted yes on this referendum, because what it does is it says at this moment in time, Virginia is taking the temporary, responsive, and I'll use your word, Lee, responsible step of pushing back against what other states have done in trying to stack the deck for Donald Trump in those congressional elections. And in a temporary manner, we have put forth new maps. So Virginia voters know the map that they are voting for. That's important for transparency. And these will be our congressional maps until after the next census, when the typical leveling of seats across the states happen, redistricting happens nationwide. Then we will return back to our bipartisan commission. So it is responsive, it is temporary, and a yes vote is our way to stand up and ensure that efforts in other states do not go unmatched.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing in other states. I mean, it's time to take our power back. When we did this in California with Prop 50, I was talking to Governor Newsom about this. And I was saying, you know what, this is a moment to meet the Republicans where they are, not where we wish they were, to give our democracy a fighting chance and to sort of fight fire with fire in a way that says, hey, we need to make sure that the voters are still heard in this country at a time where the president would very much like to take all of our votes. And if it's people that are billionaires coming in here and throwing money at this campaign for the no vote, it kind of tells you which way if you're a regular old person in America, you might want to vote. So thank you so much, because ultimately this is all about fairness. It's about holding on to our democracy, and it's about doing the right thing. So I really appreciate what Virginia's doing here and how brave you guys are being.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's exactly it. And, Tuesday's election day. Everybody needs to get out and vote in the referendum. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, make sure that they know. I think there's broad awareness across the Commonwealth that we have this referendum vote on Tuesday, but make sure they know that it's responsive, that it's temporary, that it preserves our bipartisan redistricting commission into the future, and make sure that despite all the efforts to trick voters by saying that misrepresenting and lying about my position or President Obama's position or anybody else's, make sure they know the truth, make sure they know to get out and vote on Tuesday. It's an extraordinarily important referendum, and it is great to see you, Lee. Thank you for highlighting
Nice to see you too, Governor. Thank you.
Lee, I'm going to keep you on camera here and ask you, as we see this process playing out in Virginia, as we saw this process play out in California, do you view this as kind of the next iteration of a Democratic Party that is willing to fight in a way that we haven't seen before? I mean, I know that you and I are very much of the same ilk when it comes to like our exhaustion with the Democratic Party that has for so long been the party of strongly worded letters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Brian, I say all the time, like, look, you could be the best boxer in the entire world, but if your opponent starts kicking you in the head and the ref doesn't call it, then you either learn to take a kick to the head and give one back, or you lose. And I think Democrats are sick to death of losing, because we see what's happening to our country when we are.
What have you heard from your audience in terms of moments like these? Because I know that there has been kind of a hunger for some actual action here, and this is a really positive outlet where it doesn't feel like, we're just kind of posting or just yelling into the void. Like, this is something that can actually have a major impact. And so what has your audience said?
My audience loves it. I mean, listen, here's the thing. Everyone is hungry for change. They are absolutely sick of getting, we're watching a war that no one wanted us to have. We're losing our healthcare. We're losing our benefits while we're giving rich people more tax cuts and, funding this ridiculous violent mob in our streets who shoot our citizens and get away with it. I'm really glad Governor Spanberger is doing this. I was furious that more governors didn't join Governor Newsom in doing the same when Prop 50 was on the ballot, because clearly this isn't the time for half measures or upholding norms or, as you said, strongly worded letters. Every leader who believes in American experiment right now in democracy has to be pulling out all the stops. I mean, Donald Trump is behaving like a man who never plans to leave office. He's doing things he promised he would never do. He's spending money like a drunk sailor. He's giving his children government contracts. He's burning bridges with our allies. We're coming into an energy and food shortage, right? This is not how someone who expects to try and win a midterm election behaves. So he must have something up his sleeve, and we have to make sure that if we're playing with a cheater, we are playing to win.
Right. I completely agree. Last question here, and I have to ask you this because I think I would be doing a major disservice to the entire audience if I didn't. How do you hold it together when you are sitting next to Scott Jennings on CNN? I mean, go ahead, just answer that question.
Listen, here's the thing. There's always someone on one of those shows that is there for a reason that is different than mine. My reason is always to inform the American public, to make sure they know what's best or what's true or what's real in a, tsunami of lies, which is what they're getting from mainstream media at the most part now. And I think the thing is that if we want the kind of country that I think we all want, that I think the majority of this country believes in, whether you would consider yourself a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, or you've never voted in your life, you probably still want a country where your water is safe to drink and your children have good schools and you're not going off to wars that are unnecessary and we don't have a draft. Most of us would agree on these things. And we've forgotten that in the corners that we live in. And I think we need to get back to what being a real, American is and what it stands for in the world and what it stands for in this country. And so I think that when I sit across from someone that is so clearly a propagandist, all I
Yeah.
think is that here's my job is to represent the American people here. And sometimes the representing the American people is me just being exhausted and showing that on screen.
I think everybody you
Everyone's
channel
like, yeah, what?
you
You're like, and that's how most people feel. So I think I'm
you
just
ch
reflecting the American experience.
100%. I mean, you channel that exhaustion quite well. And I was like trying to think of the word for it, and I think that the exhaustion is quite
Come
apt.
on, we've
Does he
had it.
does he talk to you in the green room? Do you talk offset at all?
Scott and I are not pals, unfortunately. There are some people who are right-wing pundits who I think really can listen and can take a point and are interested in having a discussion. I do not believe he remains one of them. There is possibly a time that he was a classic conservative, and I think that is no longer the time that we live in.
Okay. Well, thank you for the service that you're doing. Thanks for chatting with Governor Spanberger here, and we appreciate you and your time. So, with
Brian,
that
I'm really
said,
excited for this. This is a big deal. We have to
me
get excited
too.
about this. This is what we need to get out the vote for. This is the kind of fighting back that we've wanted to do for so long. And every time we get the opportunity, just get in the frickin' ring, people. Start kicking.
Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, with that said, I'm going to throw to, I believe we have the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee and the co-host of Pod Save America. So let's talk about what this moment is really about, and that is accountability. What we're seeing across the country right now is not random. This is all a coordinated effort by Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans to tilt the system, to lock in power, to avoid being held accountable before voters even have their say. And that's exactly why voting yes in Virginia matters so much right now. So again, we're joined by these two voices who have been on the front lines of calling this out and helping millions of people understand this moment and what's at stake. Congressman Robert Garcia represents the state of California, where I am right now, serves as the Democratic leader on the House Oversight Committee, holding the Trump administration accountable day in and day out. And John Favreau, former Obama speechwriter and co-founder of Crooked Media, whose work through Pod Save America and beyond has helped define how this generation talks about politics, democracy, and what's at stake. Also a huge influence in terms of what I do on a daily basis. So I appreciate both of you guys being here. Do we have Robert Garcia? I think we are still maybe waiting on the ranking member, but Favs, while I
Hey.
have you, what does it mean? What does it mean to you to see not just California, but now Virginia actually step up? I mean, you've worked in government and you've seen how Democrats have operated for quite a long time here. Now this is kind of some actual action behind just the words.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty proud of everyone who's stepped up, and including everyone who's watching, who stepped up on Prop 50 in California, and is now doing it again for yes for Virginia. And it is good to see Democrats everywhere treat this with the urgency that's required. This started with what Republicans were trying to do to rig the map in Texas, but they of course haven't stopped there. They did it in North Carolina and Missouri. They are trying to do it in Florida right now. So while we have made quite a few gains through doing this in California and other places, Virginia is going to be critical to make sure that we don't have a rigged map in the House, and we can really win back the House and have a comfortable majority.
Talk about the importance of a moment like this, especially in light of the fact that, we have the 2030 census around the corner.
Yes. Well, the other thing is if this ends up being, knock on wood, with everyone's efforts, a wave election. In a wave election, you want to make sure that you win not just the majorities in each house, but as many seats as humanly possible, because then when we get to 2028 and hopefully we elect a Democratic president, then we want that president to make sure they have working majorities in the House and in the Senate, and that they have enough seats to actually pass the agenda that they talked about passing, and so that we're not dealing with what Trump dealt with Mike Johnson, and a very slim majority over the last couple of years. You want a bigger majority, and winning these seats now in 2026 ends up being a down payment on 2028.
What do you hope to see overall? Like, if you could wave a magic wand and dictate what the whole country looks like in terms of redistricting, what would you like to see? What is a more permanent solution than kind of these scattershot moves that we're making right now?
I mean, to be honest, like a more permanent solution is if Democrats get the majority again, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act would have done away with all partisan gerrymandering, and we would have
Yeah.
independent redistricting all across the country. And that is the dream, that you have independent, nonpartisan gerrymandering. You have nonpartisan maps in every state across the union, and so that you don't have to have this race to the bottom that we're engaged in right now that Republicans started.
Do you think that there's a world where, if for the first time that I can remember, Republicans are getting a taste of their own medicine, where, they might redraw the map in Texas, but, who knows whether they're gonna I mean, even in the primary elections, we saw higher turnout in those redrawn districts, among Democratic voters than even Republican voters. Of course, California responded. We have 5 districts in California. Now we're in a situation where we might see 4 new districts in Virginia, and other states, may very well join. Do you think that we're finally in a world where, because we fought fire with fire, Republicans might actually be amenable to the prospect of nationwide redistricting reform, like no partisan gerrymandering whatsoever?
Possibly, but honestly, it won't really matter if they are or not if we have a working majority to pass the legislation. As it was back in what 21, we were it was Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema that didn't want to get rid of the filibuster, so we couldn't pass it. But if
Yeah.
we have a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate, and we have enough senators who are willing to get rid of the filibuster or reform the filibuster for this, and we have a Democratic president that can sign it into law, we can not just unrig maps permanently, but we can put in place all kinds of reforms that will make our democracy more democratic, which should help for generations to come.
So you have been doing really excellent coverage of 2026, on Pod Save America, on all of the crooked media properties. I would ask, as far as the Senate prospects look right now, I mean, that was something that I think if you asked us 10 months ago, there is not a world in which we would feel bullish about, the Senate in 2026, maybe the House. But now, how do you feel about the Senate as we head toward November?
I feel a lot better. I do feel like that now we've gotten to this weird spot where I do think Democrats' chances in the Senate are underrated. And look, it's not easy because to capture a Senate majority, we're going to need Democratic candidates to win in states that Trump won by 10 points, right?
Yeah.
It's not just North Carolina and Maine and holding Georgia and Michigan, but it's also 2 of
Winning
4,
in Yeah,
no,
winning
which
in
is
Ohio, in
Iowa,
Alaska.
Ohio, Alaska, and Texas. And if we can pick off 2 of those states, that means the Democrats will have won in states that they haven't won statewide in a very long time, that Donald Trump has won. And but I think that Donald Trump's approval rating now is low enough nationally that if it is also under 50 in those states, then I think that the Democratic candidate's probably going to get, I don't know, upwards of 85-90% of the anti-Trump vote, probably higher in those states. And so if Trump's below 50 in some of those states, which I think he is, then there's a really good shot, especially since we have excellent candidates in all those states. And obviously some of the primaries haven't played themselves out yet, but just have good candidates across the board. So it's a real possibility.
Is your, are you most bullish on, of those that you listed?
It's a good
I
question.
mean, like, well, let me ask specifically. Texas feels like it has always been the eternal prize for Democrats. Like, we've heard that if we're able to flip Texas, like that upends the entire map. Especially, you and I were speaking about the prospect of the census in 2030 being such an impending problem for Democrats, and it's true. I
Yes.
mean, California will lose seats. A lot of, we will have some northeastern states that are going to lose seats, and they're going into these, these southern states or southeastern states. Um, how do you feel about Texas, given the money that James Tallarico has just raised, given the polling that we have seen out of that state, given the fact that we have seen, not a single Republican flip a Democratic seat, but plenty of Democrats flip Republican seats, just all those combined.
I think that Democrats are always sort of accused of like, dreaming too big with Texas. And there's like, oh, it's so much money and you're really going to compete in Texas. And
Yeah.
my view on it is like, we have to win Texas at one of these elections, and it might as well be this one because with the census changes in 2030, we are going to need not just for the Senate, but for the Electoral College, we're going to need to flip Texas at some point. And so, even though it's expensive, even though it's difficult, even though it's an uphill climb, like we also have to remember too that in 2018, Beto came within 2.5 points of winning in that environment, and that's a midterm environment. It was a blue wave. And if I think you could argue we have an even better political environment this time around. I think Texas may have gotten harder just because of some demographic changes, and because I think Republican rule in that state has made it even tougher to vote and tougher to flip. But I think James Tallarico is an outstanding candidate. I think that he has raised so much money, and I feel like if we are going to put our resources somewhere that's not just for 2026, but for the long term, then Texas is the place to go.
I've heard about all of these really talented young candidates, and the first thing that I feel like I hear online is like, "Oh, this guy has what it takes to be president someday. This woman has what it takes to be president someday." Every time John Ossoff speaks, every time Raphael Warnock speaks, every time James Tallarico speaks, is there some worry that you have when you see these really talented candidates in these super difficult to win Senate races that you're like, that there's some worry that like, okay, but we need them in the Senate. Like, it's great that this person is so talented that they could ascend to the highest, to the highest levels of office. But then that also kind of leaves us in a rough spot, because now you have those people potentially vacating those very seats that we would need.
High class problems, Brian. High
Yeah,
class.
I know. I was gonna say.
I think we know. Like, I think we need a lot of talent, right? We need,
Yeah.
we need, we need an abundance agenda for talented Democratic candidates, and
Uh-huh.
we need them in the Senate. We need them running for president, right? Like, look,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like you want really, really good candidates, especially to run for Senate, because the Senate is so critical. And I think that we are in an uphill climb on the Senate, not just for reasons of Republican machinations, but just because of the demographics and because of the way that the states are set up, right? And so and because of polarization and education divide and rural, urban, all that kind of stuff. And so we do of course need really, really good candidates for the Senate, but the most important thing is to elect a Democratic president in 2028. And so if we can field a lot of talent that's running for the Senate now, and that one of those people end up becoming a great presidential candidate, that's wonderful, because the most important thing is to have a leader who can inspire the whole country, bring the whole country together, and win an election so that Democrats can actually start governing and changing people's lives.
Have you seen, in terms of like, you guys do a lot of great work on the ground as well. I know before every election, you and Tommy and Lovett and Dan are always out there knocking on doors from folks that you've heard in this period, in this last year and a half. Have you gotten new viewers, new listeners to Pod Save America who have been disaffected MAGA voters, that are recognizing that they've been sold a bill of goods and are politically homeless, but recognizing the message that's being put out by the Abigail Spanbergers and Mikey Sherrills of the world, the Zoran Mamdanis of the world, all of these people who are picking up the mantle that was let go by Donald Trump when he lied about an affordability agenda, and seeing these Democrats who are actually making good on Trump's failed promises.
We definitely get this anecdotally. I mean, I'm always surprised because I'm like, oh, we've been doing this now for, almost 10 years. And so I'm always surprised
Yeah,
when someone's like, oh, I just started listening to your podcast. But
yeah,
there's a lot of people who I think you get people who said they
It's
needed
like
to take a break.
it's like the people who watch Lost and like I just started watching Lost. It's really good. Have you ever heard of Mad Men? I love
And
that
it's not
show.
like it's just I'm like, oh, you just like if you didn't care about politics before, what it shows me is that there's still people who haven't cared about politics before or who haven't been engaged in politics before who are now getting engaged in politics. And for some people, by the way, it's, oh, I listened to you guys before in like 2017 and 2018, and then I had to take a break because everything was so horrible and I went away from
Yeah.
it. And we definitely have noticed in the last year, especially since, or last year and a half, however long it's been since Trump took office again, a big uptick in people who are like coming back and are like, maybe I had to take a break, but now I'm back. Or a lot of younger people too, people who are just like high school, college, and I want to pay attention to politics, and I want to, and I saw you guys on, they found us on TikTok or Snapchat
Oh
or
man,
like.
did you just age the hell out of yourself right
I was trying to
there?
say TikTok and Snapchat at the same time, which is exactly what happens. But it is very funny. I'm like, that's where you found us. You
Yeah.
saw us on TikTok and not on the pod.
Yeah.
But that is how, like, you're just getting younger people who are paying attention to politics because they're coming of age.
In terms of like reaching specific people, has that informed how you do your show? Like, have you made a conscious decision to say like, "Hey, I know that there is a whole group of disaffected young men, for example, who were in Trump's coalition and have since left his coalition." Has that informed a little bit of your programming at Crooked?
I mean, not really in how we talk about politics, because my view is you just I always want to talk about politics and what's at stake and what's happened in the news in a way that I would talk to just about anyone off the street who I happen to meet. And so, like, if you see me in public and you ask me about politics, I'll probably talk about it like I talk about it on the show, because I'm trying to practice what I preach, and I always preach that about how Democratic politicians should be talking more like that. So I try to do it as well. And so, I do think we cover those issues, and we cover some of the disaffected demographic groups and where they're going. And we talk to pollsters and focus group folks about what they're thinking. But in terms of how we talk about politics, we try to do it pretty similar no matter what we're talking about or who we're
Cool.
talking to.
Well, look, I would highly recommend for anybody who is watching this right now, if you're not yet subscribed to Pod Save America and any of the Crooked Media shows, it is a huge influence on what I do. I would not have started my channel without listening to the work that you guys do. So thanks for all the work that you're doing, and thanks for taking a little bit of time to hang with us today.
Thanks for having me. Everyone vote yes. Early voting open 2 more days. If you're in
Cool.
Virginia, tell your friends. If you're not in Virginia, tell your friends who are in Virginia. So go for it.
So thanks, Fabs.
All
Okay,
right.
I want to move over to bring this conversation home, because accountability isn't just about Washington. It's about what happens in people's lives when the system stops working for them. And we're joined by two leaders who are seeing the real world impact of this every single day. So we have Congressman Bobby Scott, who is the dean of Virginia's congressional delegation, has spent decades fighting to expand opportunity, strengthen public education, protect workers and families across the Commonwealth. Also, the ranking member on the House Committee on Education and Workforce. And then we have Congressman Suhas. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try not to butcher the last name. Subramanian. I apologize. I know that's a poor pronunciation. A leader on economic growth, technology, and making sure government actually works for working families. The first ever South Asian American elected to Congress from Virginia. So thank you both. Do we have both of you? Awesome. We have both of you. Thank you both for being here. Congressman, I apologize for the mispronunciation of your last name. Can we get a proper pronunciation, please?
I didn't hear it, so it
Oh,
never
well then,
happened.
it
But
never happened.
it's Subramaniam, like money. Suhas Subramaniam.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you both being here. So I wanna jump in here. Um, when accountability breaks down in Washington, what does that mean for people on the ground? Like, who feels it first?
Well, the reality is the people feel it first. When Congress doesn't do its job, when Congress attacks democracy, the everyday people feel it. The people who are on this call today feel it. And the people in the White House and in the administration feel it last. They feel it the least. And that's why you see so many people who, say, do as I say, not as I do, right? That's been the motto of this administration. We don't want mail-in balloting, but the president can mail in his ballot, right? So the people feel
Yeah.
first, and that's why we need to put the people first.
And Congressman Scott, do you want to add to that just in terms of the importance of accountability right now?
Sure. Can you turn my camera on?
Yeah, we can see you
Um,
perfectly.
okay. Yeah, on accountability, the first thing you have to do is be able to ask questions. We can't get responses because we're not in the majority. They don't bother to answer. We don't have subpoena power. And because of the 3 votes they stole in North Carolina in the last election, they went from a 7-7 delegation to a 10-4 delegation and stole our majority. If we had those 3 seats back, we'd have 218, they'd have 217. And people have asked, what's in this for blacks? Well, they passed the big ugly bill by those 3 votes. They took the health care, SNAP benefits to give tax cuts to the wealthy. They passed the SAVE Act, the worst voter suppression bill in recent history, with those 3 votes. We did not pass the War Powers Act to stop the war because we didn't have those 3 votes. And so all we're doing is leveling the playing field. Right now, they've redistricted and stolen 5 votes in Texas, a couple here, a couple there. They haven't finished. So we're just trying to level the playing field. So if people care about the war, if they care about ICE, if they care about accountability with health care and education and voting rights, we're just asking people, don't guess, vote yes.
For you both, does this feel like a new moment in Democratic politics? I had spoken to John Favreau, our previous guest, about this idea, or actually Lee, Politics Girl, just prior to that, about this idea that for so long I have watched the Democratic Party for whom strongly worded letters was, the top of the mountain, right? Does this feel like a new moment where there is actually going to be some sense of fighting fire with fire? I'd like to hear from both of you on that.
If it isn't, it needs to be. This needs to be the beginning, not the end of us fighting back and making sure that we act like this isn't normal times. We can't be doing normal things as a result. Would we normally be pushing for a referendum like this mid-decade? No, but President Trump started this fight, and we're going to end it, right? And we need to continue to do that across the board in legislation, in Capitol Hill, on the streets, making sure that people know that, and the Republican Party especially knows that we will not roll over when they break norms or break the rules.
Well, and Brian, this is simple. We're doing exactly what they're doing. They've gotten all mad about what we're doing. We're doing exactly what they're doing. We're redistricting
Yeah.
midterm. They took 5 seats in Texas. They have the majority today because they took seats in North Carolina in the last election. And all we're doing is asking to level the playing field. And I think the going from going to 10-1 in Virginia will put a stop to it because they'll know that if they try this again, they're going to get smacked worse than they started. And we're going to win this election because people recognize that we can't keep up. We can't protect healthcare. We can't protect education. We can't fight. We can't fight against the war if they keep stealing seats. That's why this is so important that we level the playing field. And I think people recognize that they have an opportunity to fight fire with fire.
For both of you, have you heard from your Republican colleagues about the bill of goods that's been sold to their audience, that their supporters, their voters? I mean, the entire MAGA agenda was predicated on this idea that there was going to be a focus on America first, that people's health care would be taken care of, that food assistance would be taken care of, that costs would be down. And we've seen the polar opposite. We have seen healthcare get gutted. We've seen food assistance get cut. We've seen prices surge as the direct result of this trade war. And now all of this funding that was promised to Americans as part of this America First agenda is being sent overseas by the billions on a daily basis to drop bombs in the Middle East.
If you look at the cost of this war, what we could have done with the money, they're asking for $200 billion in terms of education and healthcare. Every year to fund the enhanced tax credits under the Affordable Care Act, it's costing millions of people their insurance. And restoring the Medicaid cuts for a year, we could restore all of the healthcare cuts. We could fund daycare, the kinds of things that President Trump said we can't do because we're fighting a war, like Medicaid or Medicare or daycare. the little individual things, as he called them. No, we have a choice that we can fight this war of choice, or we can address the needs of the American people. And I hope they're not fooled, because you should not be surprised with what he's doing.
I
Congressman, what do
talked
you
to
think?
Republicans on Capitol Hill, and I'll tell you that they're either in denial, they've
Yeah.
forgotten the very things they said last year. There's Republicans who lectured me last year about Joe Biden's interference in foreign wars, and they had a point at times. But I'll tell you this: that now they're okay with foreign wars. Now they're okay with intervention in the Middle East. Right? All of a sudden, they have that reasoning, and uh, I don't think a lot of their constituents are buying it either, frankly. I saw a couple of Republicans at the No Kings rally the other day. I hear Republicans, people who voted against me, are voting yes on this referendum. The tide is turning, and Virginia sent a message last November when Abigail Spanberger was elected resoundingly. And now we're going to send another message next week that we mean business and the country's turning.
Well, the interesting part about that is in the aftermath of California's Prop 50 election, which is along very, very, very much the same lines, we saw quite a few Republicans who had defected, even in this state. I mean, we've seen a number of Republicans who decided to vote in favor of that referendum, in line with what you're saying right now, and so I think that this is a good test case of what's happening, where all of these people who recognized the con that they've been sold are looking for, to take power away from the party that they had helped put in power, and instead put it in the hands of people who are actually delivering for their constituents. With that said, I want to bring in one person here, Suzanne Lambert, who wants to ask one quick question, and we'll bring her in. Suzanne, you here? Let's see. I think she is just joining right now. All right. Hey, Suzanne.
Hi, how are you?
Good. All right, floor is yours.
Good to see y'all. I'm in Berlin right now, so it's almost 2 a.m., but this was so important, I couldn't miss it. So great to see you all. And my question that I would love to ask y'all, as a Virginia resident, obviously this is really important to me. This is important to everyone in our country, but I think especially Virginians are trying to understand, given what we've seen Donald Trump do to sow carnage and hysteria across the United States. Why is redistricting in Virginia particularly so important in this moment?
Well, I'd start off by saying that if you're going to hold them accountable, if you're going to slow them up, we can't allow the Republicans to add to their vote total to a point where we can't catch up with them. Some of the experts are saying there are only 12 toss-up districts in the country, maybe 20, maybe 30. If they're stealing 5 in Texas, 1 here, 1 there, they've got Louisiana, Alabama, and Florida still being considered. If they add those to the mix, we'll never catch up. They passed the big ugly bill by just a handful of votes. The Voting Rights Act suppression under the SAVE Act, they passed that by just a little bit. The War Powers Act, we didn't pass. All of that because they stole 3 votes in the last election, and now they're going 5 here, 2 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. And unless we level the playing field, we will never be able to rein in the imperial presidency, because the Republicans won't even ask questions about what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll just add, if we don't even the playing field next week, that's the difference between getting people affordable health care, getting food assistance back to kids, getting school lunches back, all the things that we have lost, all of the things that Republicans have done, all the investigating that needs to be done of President Trump and his administration's corruption. It's all on the line. I mean, this could be the difference of 3 seats in November. And so this could be the election. So if people want to know what to do about it, they ask me every day, what are we going to do about Trump's chaos? Well, from now until Tuesday, call your friends in Virginia. If you are in Virginia, tell your neighbors. Go out there, join our team, because this is everything going into November.
Yeah, and what have you heard from Virginians as you've been talking to them about it?
They were confused at first, I'll be honest. They didn't understand why we needed to do this. And then they saw lies from Republicans about how Barack Obama doesn't support this, how Abigail Spanberger wants us to vote no. Well, those were lies. And so what we did and what this campaign did was we cleared up those lies. And now Democrats and even Republicans who don't want Trump controlling our Congress anymore are coming out in full force. And they're telling people to vote yes. And yes means a check on Donald Trump. And yes means that people will have power and will have a Congress that listens to them again.
And you know how weak the opposition is if they have to resort to lies. Most of their money in mailing is sent on lies. Barack Obama, Abigail Spanberger, misrepresenting their position. And that's why, and I've been delighted to see that most people are not confused, they're offended and can't wait to get to the polls. So we just tell them, don't guess, vote yes.
Yeah, I got one of those flyers myself, and it looked really nice in the bottom of my trash can. So thank you both so much for speaking with me about this and everything that you're doing for Virginia.
Awesome. And thank you, Suzanne, for staying up late with us. I hope that you will drink something in our honor out there. So
Oh, you know, I've got that locked and loaded.
trust me,
We're good there.
that I do know. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate you taking the time. I want to introduce now Tevin Davis, a digital communicator who has built a major following by blending humor, sharp political insight, and cultural commentary to connect with audiences that traditional media often misses. We know that you've seen his Kamala videos, so Tevin, it's an honor to be able to introduce you here. Let's see, do we have Tevin here? It's away. Awesome.
Did I do it right? Am I on here? Did I do it right? My
You're
God.
perfect. So we can see you, we can hear you. Thanks so much.
That's it. Glad to be seen and not viewed. My God, today. Thank you, Lord.
All right, Tevin, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. It is wonderful to be here. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I am deeply honored, first of all, to be able to share space and to be able to lend my voice to this collective fight alongside so many leaders and organizers and history makers who have dedicated their lives to moving this country forward. It is truly, truly an honor to be here in this moment with all of you. And it can only be summed up by me saying, my God, today. So my name is Tevin Davis. I'm an actor, political content creator. Many of you may know me from my impersonations of former Vice President Kamala Harris. And I was a contestant on season 46 of Survivor. And I wanted to say that right now, we are all playing a game of Survivor, not in Fiji, but right here in America. Now, in the game of Survivor, it's not just about who is the strongest or the loudest. It is about who is the most strategic, who can read the room and anticipate what's coming next. The best players don't react. They study. They ask, what is my opponent's next move and why is it their next move? So when Donald Trump started this redistricting fight, what was his best move and why? When he called North Carolina, when he called Florida, when he called Texas, when he called Missouri, why? Why are they trying to redraw the maps all across the country? Because they are anticipating the will of the people. They're anticipating losing power because they know they are unpopular. I mean, the healthcare cuts, you have this war of choice in Iran, you have ICE terrorizing our communities, gas is so high you got to get on a payment plan just to fill the tank up. And instead of changing their behavior, they change the maps. They started this, and Virginia is responding. Virginia has recognized what is coming next after this, an attempt to rig the system and to tilt the playing field and to silence voices before the voices can actually speak. And so instead of waiting until it's too late, Virginia is acting right now. But Virginia has already shown what happens when we fight back. We did it in November. We elected our first female governor, Abigail Spanberger, who I have started calling Abigail Spanberger, because every time I turn around, she is signing a new bill fighting for Virginians. I mean, sign, Madam Governor, sign. But we have elected leaders like Ghazala Hashmi. We sent a blue wave through Virginia that didn't just stop here, but swept across the country. That wasn't a fluke, it was a rebuke. And I wanted to remind you all of how that felt, that hope, that joy, because I have the profound belief that joy is resistance. That's why everything I do is rooted in joy and hope and optimism, because they are afraid of a people who believe in the promise of tomorrow more than the fear of yesterday. So, right now, Virginia, this is your moment. This is your time to stand up and fight back. This is your time to vote yes and remind this regime once again that your voice is your power. Like I've said, we are all playing Survivor now. And in that game, there are advantages and there are immunity idols. We've got those too. They just look a little differently. Our advantages are our kindness, our clarity, and our connection. Our immunity idols are our empathy and our love. Those are the things that keep us grounded and keep us protected and allow us to take care of one another, because the people are tired. There's so much happening every single day you wake up and turn on the news. Oh my goodness. And no one person can carry it all. Everybody can't do everything, but if everybody does something, then everything gets done. As I've said over and over and over again, it has to be everything, everywhere, all at once. So if you can donate and help Virginia get across the finish line, please do it. If you can volunteer, please do it. If you can knock on doors and you can make calls and talk to your neighbors and offer somebody a ride, or make someone, help someone make a plan and find their polling location, please do it, because it is going to take all of us. And Virginians, it's in your hands. So when you say yes, understand what you are saying. You are saying yes to your voice, yes to your power, yes to protecting the will of the people. And at the very same time, you are telling Donald Trump and his allies loud and clear, hell no. Virginia, please, please, please vote yes. And now it is also my immense, and I mean immense, honor and privilege to introduce someone that has inspired me, the first Black Attorney General of the United States of America. I would like to introduce the Eric Holder. Sir, are you there? Somebody's calling my name. Yes. Can you hear me, Attorney General? I think I see him. Look, I ain't got no power. I'm just waiting. I think you're there. We just got to get the camera on. Listen, AG, hold on. I'm gonna give you a nice. See, I want you to have a nice big intro, so I'm gonna give you the intro again. It is now my immense honor and privilege to introduce the first Black Attorney General of the United States of America. My God, Sir Eric Holder. How you doing, sir?
All right. I'm doing just fine. Thank you, Tevin, for that really nice introduction. How are you doing tonight?
Listen, I'm blessed. I woke up this morning, and that is all that I can ask for, so that I can keep on fighting and use my voice. It is an honor to introduce you. It is an honor to be with you and to share space with you, sir. And I wanted to ask you something, because you have been warning about this for years and years and years. And so what I wanted to ask you is simple. Are we watching in real time Donald Trump and his allies try to rig the system? Is that what we're seeing?
Okay, Tevin, I couldn't hear all that you were asking me there. So I'm going to just say thanks for asking me that important question.
There you go. There you go. Can you hear me, AG? Can you hear me now?
I also want to thank Brian for hosting us tonight. I also want to thank everybody who's joining us. I know there are many causes and organizations that are asking for your time this year. I appreciate your sharing yours with Virginians for fair elections. And I promise you that this is time well spent. This is really critical work to preserve free and fair midterm elections and to protect our democracy. I've felt for several years now that the comfort within the Republican Party holding on to power, even at the cost of bending or breaking the rules of our democracy. And we see play out almost daily in the White House, in the Congress, and we see too often in the United States Supreme Court. You have to look no further than the racist, I want to emphasize that, the racist and dishonest campaign being run against the Virginia referendum, and using images of Klansmen in white hoods and falsely suggesting that Barack Obama Governor Spanberger opposed this measure. It's totally wrong. And what they're doing is deeply cynical. They're deliberately lying to encourage people to vote no or to depress the turnout because they know that if our people show up, we win. They're trying to cheat the American people, and especially black voters, in order to avoid accountability at the ballot box. And it's not only wrong, it's also un-American. And that's why what we're doing is so terribly important. Since last summer, Republicans in Texas, Missouri, and North Carolina have rammed through new gerrymanders to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms. They did so because their highest priority is serving the interests of Donald Trump. In Florida, Governor DeSantis is pushing the legislature right now to redraw their already gerrymandered map, and they want to try to steal up to 5 more seats. Now, unlike in those states, politicians are shutting the people out of the process. You, the people of Virginia, have a final say on what your map is going to look like. I believe we have a chance to retake the House of Representatives. I believe Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, and the rest of the crowd believe it too. They are scared. They're scared. Otherwise, they would not have driven us into this mess. They don't think that they can win a fair fight. We will only be successful if Virginians fight back. We have the power to level the playing field and restore fairness in the upcoming congressional elections. And this, I want to emphasize, this is a temporary measure for an extraordinary moment. A temporary measure for an extraordinary moment. It's your opportunity to tell the White House and all of Trump's enablers in the Republican Party that you've had enough. Enough of the lying, enough of the cheating, enough of the incompetence, all the things they're trying to do. So here's the deal. What happens in Virginia will change the course of the country. No pressure, folks, but it will change the course of the country. We're going to heal and ultimately strengthen our democracy. We cannot allow this president 2 more years of unchecked power and zero accountability. Think about that. 2 more years. Now, look, there are no miracles. There are no saviors. It's on us. It's on us, the people, to chart a better path forward. And early voting is available for 2 more days. Tomorrow is Saturday, April 17th and 18th, and Election Day is next Tuesday, the 21st. If you don't know where to vote, go to iwillvote.com/VA for polling locations. iwillvote.com/VA for polling locations. We have just a few more days left to go in this election. So I hope you will all do everything that you can between now and Election Day on April 21st to ensure that Virginia votes yes. So go knock on doors. Bring someone with you. Share with your network. Make it a moment. Make sure that you and your friends and families have a plan to vote. I even say it's people you don't like. Convince them to go and vote. Everybody you can talk to, everybody you can impress with the fact that democracy is at stake, that we don't want 2 more years of unchecked Donald Trump. That's what this is all about. I'm confident that if we get out there and do that which we can, we'll win this thing. That, I guess I'll hand it back to Brian.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you both. Thank you so much for both of you being here, Attorney General Holder and Tevin. Thank you guys. Couldn't have done a better job. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Fight back, Virginia.
Awesome. Well, joining us now is going to be Senator Mark Warner. Senator Warner has served Virginia for decades, first as governor, where he helped turn around the state's economy, and now as Virginia's senior U.S. Senator, where he serves as the chair of the Senate Intel Committee. He's been at the center of protecting national security and safeguarding American democracy from both foreign and domestic threats. Senator, it's great to have you. I'm also glad to be joined by Adam Mockler, one of the fastest growing Gen Z political voices in the entire country and a friend of mine, reaching millions through direct on-the-ground reporting and commentary that connects especially with young voters who are shaping the future of this country. So Adam and Senator, we have you both here. I'll leave it up to you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you to all the great hosts of this event. I don't think there's anybody better to explain the on-the-ground stakes of what's happening in Virginia than Virginia Senator Mark Warner. Thank you so much for the time, Senator. Let's just start off really broad. Can you lay out the stakes in this upcoming midterms for why Democrats need to regain power, why we need to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't use tricks to steal it, and why we need to defeat their redistricting attempts? What are the broad stakes here?
Well, broadly, Adam, we have an administration that has gone totally rogue. We are 48 days into a war with Iran where we have not accomplished any of what Trump wanted. The regime is worse. We have no ability to get the enriched uranium. They still have ballistic missiles. They've closed the Strait of Hormuz. And Americans are paying the price for that, not just at the gas pump, but on everything they buy. And the reason this came about, in many ways, is not just Trump's current decisions, but the fact that in 2022, Donald Trump stole 3 seats in North Carolina without a lot of attention, which was the margin that actually could have made Hakeem our speaker right now as opposed to coming next year, but also in terms of the awful bill that's cut healthcare. In my state, we have rural hospitals up to 10 closing, and we have literally 80,000 Virginians who've lost food assistance. We have hundreds of thousands who are going to lose Medicaid. And that was all because the Republican Party under Donald Trump cheated in North Carolina. They have then cheated again in Texas. We in Virginia have always supported bipartisan redistricting, but not when the other side pummels us with unfair practices. So we in Virginia have the chance to level the playing field, to make sure we vote by Tuesday the 21st. We have a chance to gain a number of seats, and shout outs to the leaders of the Virginia legislature like Louise Lucas and our great speaker, Don Scott. And all this will say, and I say to my Virginia friends who are saying like, well, we're changing rules. Yes, we're changing rules only because the other side, frankly, cheated. And in Virginia, unlike North Carolina or Texas, we are giving the voters the final say. So we level the playing field. Not only can we make sure we make Hakeem Jeffries the speaker, we can level on healthcare, but the rogue president on national security issues, as the former chair and hopefully future chair of the Intelligence Committee, our country's reputation and how we are viewed around the world is fraying at every effort. And in many ways, I don't want to overhype, but this election on Tuesday, in terms of regaining the opportunity to level the playing field in Virginia, is as important as anything that's going on this whole year.
Very well said. And Governor Spanberger has been doing an amazing job passing legislation in Virginia and pushing forward an affirmative message. I guess we've learned over the past few years that MAGA was just a sophisticated marketing scheme for the same old Republican policies, right? Cut taxes for the rich, cut benefits for the most vulnerable, then go to war with a country that starts with IRA while ballooning our debt every single year. Over and over, Republicans do the same thing. But Democrats are finally regaining their foothold, especially in your state of Virginia. It feels like Governor Spanberger is doing a great job. Can I ask you, what do you think Democrats should be standing for on the national stage? It's very easy to be against Trump all the time. What should we be standing for affirmatively?
Well, what I believe we should be standing for is number one, universal health care. We will never bring down healthcare costs until we get to universal health care. And unfortunately, we've now seen a retreat on those efforts because of the awful bill. Again, the margin being the seats stolen by redistricting in North Carolina. Number two, and I'm a tech guy, but I think we need to make sure that artificial intelligence and AI is done fairly. We've got to make sure the grid is not overburdened by driving up utility costs. And I am obsessed about making sure that particularly young people coming out of college, having done everything right, are going to have jobs. And that's going to require an ability to bring in the AI guys and help us get through this transition, but also help us pay for it. And it's also going to require us to actually restore what is kind of an America's secret sauce. I say this as a former business guy and as again, the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee. The world is stronger when we have strong American leadership that's moral leadership, instead of a president that, frankly, insults everybody in the world, even insults the Pope, even is willing to call out our friends awful names. We have to restore American leadership. And honestly, when we take control of the House, and I believe we can also take control of the Senate, we'll finally put some guardrails on a president that so far has operated without guardrails, to the point that even and I say this as somebody who's, I know some of you have been mad because they always try to be bipartisan, but I have given up on my Republican friends until they find a backbone, until there is a return of a legitimate Republican Party away from a group of Trump sycophants. We have one goal, and that is kick their ass.
Very, very well said. What do you think the risk is of Donald Trump shaking up the global order in the way that he has been? I've been thinking about this a lot, especially after the Strait of Hormuz incident, when it seems like he's legitimizing a type of ruling where countries with missiles on their coast can just point those missiles at that strait and then extort them. Like, for example, my friend was saying that Malaysia, if they wanted to, could start extorting the Strait of Malacca. Denmark, the Baltic Sea. He's plunging us into a global order where power is the only thing that rules. What do you see the risk as to the global order with a president who is just only ruling like this?
Adam, the risk, I mean, listen, I don't want to bum people out, but we have a regime now in Iran that's worse than what it was 48 days ago. We have their enriched uranium that would require tens of thousands of American troops on the ground. They still have drones and missiles. They still have literally control the Strait of Hormuz. There was a reason why for 47 years, the Iranian leadership has been awful. First to acknowledge that. But why responsible presidents of both parties, including Donald Trump, would not enter into this kind of war without some allies and a plan. It has been beyond embarrassing. And as we start to see, nations around the world, I say this with some trepidation and full acknowledgement. On my mom's side, my grandparents were Canadian. It's hard to piss off the Canadians, but we have so pissed off the Canadians that their leadership thinks that China may be a more dependable partner than America. That does not make America safer. America's special sauce is not just our military and our strong economy. It is the fact that we have had, for the most part, leadership that is driven by strong morals, by a commitment to freedom and democracy. All of that is at stake. And I know these lofty ideals when we're talking about a redistricting battle, but they are all intertwined. And an unleashed, unguarded Donald Trump, we've seen the damage done already. If he was somehow able to continue without any checks, this first year and a half would pale in comparison to what he could do going forward. So to my friends in Virginia, we have to do our part. For those of us, those who are listening nationally, I know we ask you for a lot on a lot of races, but there is no place where your dollar, your effort, your energy can be better spent than over the next 5 days, making sure we come out of Virginia with a fair, level playing field approach. And let me just quickly add, for all of us who are, policy nerds, as I am, and I know you are as well, and, we're more than willing to go back to independent redistricting. I actually believe we ought to have a federal law that says independent redistricting with no ability to change mid-decade. But, for too long, we have not fought fire with fire. It is time for us to load up and fight with everything we've got, because literally, not just the future of our country, but not to overstate, but whether there will be a democracy going forward is all at stake.
Very well said. Just to wrap it up, I always say that norms in a democracy work like consent. If you want consent to work meaningfully, you need both parties working together in tandem. If you want norms in a democracy to work, you need both parties working in tandem. When we repeatedly see Republicans drag us to new lows and break every single norm in the book, with Supreme Court nominations, with elections being quote unquote stolen, as they say, then it's time for Democrats to say, hey, we're going to neutralize your redistricting efforts. So it's so nice to see Democrats fighting back. Thank you, Senator Warmer. Thank you, Brian, as well.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank
And
you
thank
both.
you, Brian.
Appreciate you both being here. Thank you so much. Before we move on, just a quick reminder for folks, if you live in Virginia, make your plan to vote yes right now at iwillvote.com/VA. Find your polling place. You can lock in your plan. You can get the whole thing done. And for everybody watching, you can help decide this election from wherever you are. You don't need to be in Virginia. All you got to do is scan the QR code on your screen. That way you can volunteer, you can make calls, you can chip in. We're mobilizing voters in real time, and we absolutely need you in this fight. Okay, moving on to our next guest here. Joining us now is House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. As leader of the House Democrats, he represents the highest-ranking Democratic voice in Congress. He's been leading the charge to push back against extremism and defend democratic institutions, represents Brooklyn, New York, which is where I was born, and has built a national profile as a forceful advocate for protecting voting rights and ensuring fairness in our political system. Leader Jeffries, thank you for joining us. Leader Jeffries is joined by David Pakman, who is one of the most widely viewed progressive political voices in the country, a major inspiration for me and my show. He's been breaking down politics for audiences online long before most people even knew what a YouTube political channel was. So thank you both for being here. Floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Brian. Leader Jeffries, great to see you. You know, last time you and I spoke, we talked about the desire to do things now in advance of the November elections and what ultimately will hopefully be Republicans losing power in advance of 2028. I can't help but think about what's going on nationally and, of course, in so many states with regard to redistricting as an example of something we can do right now, and we can directly push back against what this administration is trying to do. Talk a little bit about where you think this strategy fits into the next 2 and 4 years.
Well, thank you so much, David. Great to be with you. And thank you, Brian, of course, for convening us all. You're absolutely right. You know, we're involved in fighting one battle after another and pushing back against the extremism that Donald Trump has unleashed, along with Republicans on the American people, in advance of the November midterm elections. We build up to that, but voting yes on this referendum on or before April 21st and ensuring that we're doing everything possible to have a fair national map is going to impact what the policy landscape looks like for years, if not generations to come. Because what Republicans were trying to do, led by Donald Trump, was to gerrymander the national congressional map so they could rig the midterm elections and hold on to power, even though their extreme policies are being rejected by the American people. And so this is a critical step forward for the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia, but it has national and international implications because we can cut Donald Trump's presidency in half legislatively and also in terms of our ability to aggressively hold these extremists accountable. But that's going to require us to win back the House. And Republicans are trying to stop that from happening, not by convincing the American people that the Republican policies are making their life better. It's not. It's making their life worse. They're trying to steal the midterm election. And the centerpiece of that was Republicans gerrymandering congressional maps in red states across the country, which is why it's been so important for us to be able to forcefully respond, as was done to get this thing started in California, and as is now being done in Virginia.
It's really struck me as I was preparing to talk to you today that we're not hearing or seeing a strategy from Republicans of, hey, let's convince people to vote for us on the merits of what we've done. There's no, let's convince them that gas prices up 55% since January 15th is a great thing and they should vote for more of it in November. Let's convince them that the way that we've now gone into multiple military engagements without congressional approval is awesome and it's what we promised. And no, they're doing things like trying to win by making it harder for people to vote and redrawing maps and this sort of thing. One of the things I know my audience wants is accountability. And it seems to me that part of that is getting Democrats oversight power back in November. And a prerequisite of that would be making sure that they can't steal an election. So for me, this is all connected. Tell me if you agree, disagree.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And what we've seen from these Republicans is that instead of functioning like a separate and co-equal branch of government as part of the checks and balances of our system, where it's the responsibility of the Congress to hold an out of control administration accountable for doing things that either violate the law, as we've seen from this administration consistently, or even just making their life worse, not better, through things like this reckless and costly war of choice in the Middle East, which, as you've pointed out, has resulted in life getting more expensive for the American people, particularly as it relates to gas prices. And then the Republicans in the House are just functioning as if they are a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump cartel and just a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda. And our promise to the American people is that we will be a check and balance on this out of control administration. And hopefully the American people can see that while we will focus, of course, on affordability and that part of the agenda, we have an accountability responsibility as well. And we are already running some of these extremists out of town. In the minority, we've run Kristi Noem out of town. We've run Pam Bondi out of town. We're working on Pete Hegseth next. And these people are deeply unqualified. They never should have been confirmed by the Senate, unfortunately. But the Republicans, again, behaving like wholly owned subsidiaries of the Trump cartel as opposed to exercising independent judgment. We're going to end those days on January 3rd, having taken back the House. But to get there, we have to ensure that there's a fair national congressional map as part of ensuring that there's a free and fair election. And then on the other side of it, we're going to make clear, we don't work for Donald Trump. We don't work for J.D. Vance. We don't work for their billionaire donors. We work for the American people.
Viewers can scan the QR code in the lower left of the screen to get more information about how they can get involved in this. One of the things that my audience is very interested in, and in fact, I spoke with Governor Newsom about this recently, is what is going to happen to the Republican Party at the end of this presidency? And will Trump even be in a position to choose his heir, or will he be so embroiled in oversight and investigations and accountability that he will be too diminished to do that? Well, that depends on what happens in November. But as we work backwards, whether that happens in November depends on a lot of these individual questions, like what California voters had before them just a few months ago. And now this situation in Virginia is another example of that. So I think it would be important to tell our audience that while we're talking today about Virginia and on another day it was about other states, these are all pieces in getting us to a point where the Republican Party is not able to even put together a serious candidacy in 2028.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all part of the same continuum. And of course, I'm thankful to the Texas Democrats who fought back courageously and in breaking quorum and leaving the state, cast a spotlight on what Republicans were trying to do that then, lit a spark that spread like wildfire all across the country to say, no, we're not going to step back. We're going to fight back and push back against these extremists aggressively and not let them gerrymander any hope of taking back the majority out of existence. And then we fought back hard with Prop 50 in California. We pushed them back in Ohio. We won litigation in Utah to pick up a seat that they had stolen from us at the beginning of the decade by gerrymandering a congressional district in the Salt Lake City area. We stopped them in New Hampshire. We stopped them in Nebraska. We stopped them in Kansas, and we stopped them in Indiana. Now we're responding forcefully in Virginia. And I want to thank Governor Spanberger, Speaker Scott, Leader Soroval, and all of the members of the Virginia General Assembly in partnership with the Virginia congressional delegation for creating this opportunity where the people can decide who actually represents them in Congress, not Donald Trump. And when we take back control of the House, the dominoes will begin to fall. And Donald Trump is very weak right now, but we need to see a tangible manifestation of that in the midterm elections, which would mean the House majority on the Republican side, these sycophants, corrupt in many ways, who just been doing Donald Trump's bidding, and Trump is running the largest pay-to-play scheme in the history of the world right now. All of them have to be held accountable, and they will. That the sycophants aren't rewarded for their extreme behavior. That the American people decisively make clear, we're done with Donald Trump, and we're done with them. And then, of course, in the next 2 years, it'll be our responsibility to work as hard as we can to get stuff done, to keep our promises, to focus on driving down the high cost of living and fixing our broken healthcare system, and preparing for that 2028 election. But listen, J.D. Vance, who appears to be the heir apparent, he's not had a good week. The guy failed in terms of the peace deal that he was sent over to Pakistan to negotiate. That fell apart. J.D. Vance was campaigning for Viktor Orban, and that guy got crushed by the people of Hungary. And then, J.D. Vance is put into a position by his boss that he's got to defend Donald Trump's attack on Pope Leo, of all people. So they really got nothing to come after Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is so weak right now, he's falling apart. But we can take nothing for granted, and we keep our foot on the gas pedal, and voting yes on or before April 21st to stop this MAGA power grab is going to be a significant step in the right direction toward ending this national nightmare and continuing our country's march toward a more perfect union.
And it does seem as though there are cracks like we haven't seen before in the MAGA sphere. I mean, just in looking at videos from the Turning Point rally event, where you had a crowd cheering the idea of impeachment hearings about Donald Trump, not something you would normally expect. They interviewed young voters in the hallways, and they were saying, listen, we believed Trump when he said he was the anti-war candidate. This is not what we signed up for. We believed Trump when he said all of these prices are going to come down. They've gone the opposite direction. I'm not here to pretend that he's lost his base, but a lot of these sort of softer supporters or newer supporters do seem to be looking and saying, this is not what we signed up for.
That's absolutely right. And even, I think it's important for everyone to process that if there's modest erosion, it finishes them off on the other side. And there's certainly every reason to believe that there is modest erosion that is underway right now. Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down, they've gone up. Donald Trump said that he wasn't going to be a president who started wars. He was going to be a president who stopped wars. And then he got us into a reckless, costly war of choice in the Middle East, spending billions of dollars a day to drop bombs in Iran, but won't spend a dime to make sure that everyday Americans can go afford to see a doctor when they need one. This is the same guy who also promised in all of his administration that they were going to release the Epstein files, and now he's doing everything he can to block the release of more than 3 million documents that are part of the Epstein files. And so we've got one broken promise after another, and this is, in our view, impacting some of the enthusiasm that previously existed amongst his MAGA base. And now, in election after election after election, what we've been seeing, now Democrats have been winning elections now for 16 consecutive months, starting with an Iowa special election for a state Senate seat in late January, running all the way through what just happened in Wisconsin, a swing state that Donald Trump won, where we won the state Supreme Court race by 20 points. Extraordinary. And then having won in deep red Texas in January of this year, deep red Louisiana in February of this year, and then deep red Florida. In fact, Mar-a-Lago is now represented by a progressive Democrat, which is an extraordinary thing. Gotta love that. So there's already a lot of evidence that there's been erosion from people who believe Donald Trump, but he lied to them. It's going to be incumbent upon us to make clear to the American people, we hear you, we see you, we feel you, we're committed to making life better for you.
Leader Jeffries, thanks so much. You can scan the QR code in the lower left of your screen to donate and get more information. Brian, as always, thanks for having me. You know, I was going to talk about the reporting that you're stealing my hairstyle, but it's too important of a day to do that. So let's leave it to the important stuff. And I appreciate you having me.
We'll save that one. We'll save that
Yeah,
one
please,
for the
please.
next one. Yeah. Thank you both. I appreciate you both taking the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we are now joined by somebody who hasn't just talked about fighting back, he's actually done it. Governor Gavin Newsom leads the state of California, my home state, now the fourth largest economy in the world. He's emerged as one of the most prominent national voices willing to take on Donald Trump and MAGA extremists head on. When Republicans in states like Texas moved to gerrymander and rig the playing field ahead of midterms, Newsom didn't sit back. He led the charge to respond, called out the power grab, and pushed his state, our state, to take action to go ahead and level the playing field. From defending voting rights to protecting reproductive freedom to taking on efforts to undermine our democratic institutions, he has shown what it looks like to actually fight back in real time. Governor Newsom, thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Brian. Thank you.
All right, so we obviously saw this process play out in our home state of California. What does it mean to see a similar process playing out now in Virginia? We have spent a lot of time hoping, praying, wishing, pushing for other Democrats to step up, and it looks like that's what's happening.
No, we said it, Brian, at the time, and I know everybody watching already knows this, but you were one of the most fierce champions of this cause, and you held us to a higher level of expectation, and we tried to match that. And you've made the point after we were successful here together collectively, and so many people that have joined tonight were a huge part of that success here in California, that good enough never is. Success is not a place or a destination, it's a direction. There is no having made it, particularly with Donald Trump. The ruthlessness of the right and what Donald Trump continues to pursue. As you made the point, it wasn't just Texas. He went to many other states, had people like Leader Jeffries and others not pushed back. There would have been multiple states that moved in the red direction, but there were still some. Missouri obviously moved. We saw what happened in North Carolina. We are just weeks away from similar actions by Governor DeSantis in Florida. So we can't run the 90-yard dash. We got to go. We got to keep going. I mean, this is an imperative, and people can't get exhausted. And that's why I'm on here tonight, just with gratitude and respect, but also humility to what we're up against and all the headwinds. And we're experiencing it 24/7. All of us are experiencing the shock and awe, the smash and grab, which is really what it's about, smash and grab of this administration as it relates to voting rights and it relates to free and fair elections. So he's still winding up. And that's why we've got to close and we've got to deliver a decisive blow to his agenda this next Tuesday.
To that end, Trump is still pushing to pass the Save America Act. When he's in that he is recognizing the lack of likelihood of it passing. He's now pushing to curb mail-in voting by passing his executive orders. What is the state of California doing to protect against this onslaught from Trump, whether it's legislative, whether it's some executive order from his own desk, you name it?
Well, we're litigating on all fronts, and we've been wildly successful. We have, in fact, advanced. It's interesting. We've advanced more lawsuits than there have been weeks of this administration, and not one of them proactively. All of them in defense of our republic, in defense of our democracy, in defense of co-equal branches of government, in defense, dare I say, of the rule of law. Not the rule of dawn. And Brian, I've talked about it. I think it's dawning on everybody. That it's not just about chaos. It's not just about cruelty. There's a malignant quality now to this administration in terms of these efforts, as you suggest, because he couldn't get it done legislatively. Then he takes these executive actions through executive order, these executive orders, and now he's advancing the kind of, this sort of sentiment of distrust. He wants to create chaos, so it just winds people. We all just are exhausted, and we all sort of, give up. And that's why, again, I'm here. We can't be exhausted by these redistricting fights. They're foundational. It's the architecture. It's the foundation on which everything else is built. In order us, we've got to save our republic so we have the kitchen table, so that we can start debating those kitchen table issues once again. And I'll remind folks that may not be aware, as familiar with this, or illuminate them, and remind folks that may have forgotten. But on election day with Prop 50, with our redistricting effort, that same day, Donald Trump sent out a Truth Social saying the election was rigged before one vote was cast on election day. He also sent out the BORTAC teams. These are the Border Patrol tactical units. These are the guys dressed up, right out of some YouTube video with the Apache helicopters. And he sent them to Dodger Stadium the morning of the election. So for all the morning newscasts, everyone can see these masked men, and they were masked men, the Bovino teams, that were out there to try to chill free expression and chill free speech so people didn't even turn out to the polls. We said it at the time. It's a preview of things to come. The SAVE Act, we all know what that was about, because he said he said it out loud. He said that it was about an enduring mega majority for the next 50 years. It was about choosing his voters. It's not about voter ID. It's about deciding who can vote. He's not screwing around, going after a vote by mail. He's not screwing around, trying to purge these voting rolls, trying to take over literally county election officials in offices. And literally, we had a sheriff out here in California. I hope some folks paid attention to this. Chad Bianco, this is a guy running for governor. And he's a guy running for governor as a sheriff, and he seized hundreds of thousands of ballots. And finally, a California Supreme Court finally stopped it, but not after litigation and consternation. These guys are not screwing around. So all fronts, we have to be as aggressive, dare I say ruthless, as they have been. We can't win arguments anymore. We've got to win fights, and we've got to fight fire with fire. We have got to be more aggressive.
Governor Newsom, there are a lot of Republicans, even in Florida. You had mentioned Ron DeSantis. There are a lot of Republicans calling on him not to do what he is preparing to do at the end of April, beginning of May, with this special legislative session in that state to redraw those maps. And I should remind folks, Florida's maps are already gerrymandered. Like the maps in existence are a gerrymander that was too extreme for the legislature, but was shoehorned through by DeSantis himself, obviously to curry favor with the most extreme forces in the MAGA base. And now this new map would be an extreme gerrymander on top of the existing extreme gerrymander. And we're going into a midterm cycle where Democrats are overperforming by 12, 14, 16 points. And so a lot of these Republicans, by virtue of stretching these districts out thin to get more districts on their side, risk actually drawing dummy manders. Yep. And so for that reason, we're seeing a lot of these Republicans in Florida even call for DeSantis to pump the brakes here. What do you make of the fact that this is playing out in Florida right now?
Well, they've overplayed their hand because they're experiencing that reality. They've been mugged by reality in Texas. Because all of a sudden they put other seats now into play because they've spread peanut butter out too far, to your point. And Democrats are showing up in unprecedented ways. And I think, we've talked about this, you and I, in the past, but perhaps the most consequential thing that's happened in this country in the last year has been these state elections, these 30 plus Democratic pickups. And we're just crushing it everywhere. But again, we cannot assume the past equals the future. The future's in front of us, sure, but it's also inside of us. It's decisions, not conditions, that determine that future. So we just can't give up in terms of being aggressive, continuing to be mindful that this guy, Trump, and these guys are still winding up. They have no limits. There are no limits. There are no rules. He's not playing by a different set of rules. There are no rules. He tried to rig the midterm election before there's one vote cast. And we're pushing back. That's what this initiative is about. And you're absolutely right. We have the opportunity when they do overplay their hand, when they don't take heed for those concerns, as Abbott did not, and potentially DeSantis will not, then to take advantage of that by continuing to do the hard work, that grassroots work that everybody's doing in historic ways all across this country.
Last question here. As we get closer and closer to the actual election, which is just a few days from now on April 21st, there are going to be folks who see the electoral environment and say, you know what, Democrats have been overperforming. We're good to go. I have faith that it's gonna correct itself. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, come on. Well, open your eyes. What more evidence you need? A guy dressing up, not as the Pope anymore, now as Jesus. I mean, this is this is madness, and it's one of the great grifts, one of the great corruption stories. Again, no limits, and that's the approach they're going to take. It's all on the line for Trump. His speaker. Speaker making leader Jeffries was just saying it a moment ago. The Trump presidency de facto ends as we know it this November if we do our job. And let's not dream of regretting. Not for a second can we take things for granted. And we've done that in the past. We all know we've done that. We kind of dialed it in a little bit. Now we're dialing it up. No King's Route. Keep dialing it up. Keep dialing up till the work is done. But it's all on the line for Trump. He's talking openly now about pardoning all of his staff members, not just his family members. The open sewer of corruption is next level. So he's unmoored now in terms of what he can do to try to rig this election in every way, shape, or form. Pam Bondi may be gone, but Donald Trump is still on the side of the DOJ, dyed in purple. I mean, it's his personal law firm. He's going after his. You still have governors out there still raising money for their criminal defense. He's not going away, and nor can we. Again, I cannot impress upon people more just to turn up the volume and turn out, and let's continue this extraordinary momentum. And then after we win the district battles, then we have to win the races. And we got to make sure that we're there this November and that we're there to celebrate Speaker Jeffries.
Well, look, you had spoken about continuing the momentum. That momentum wouldn't be there if it weren't for you and the work that the California Democrats did. So thank you for starting this whole process off, for getting us here, and thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for everybody tuning in, and thanks for everything everybody's done to date, and more importantly, everything that you're going to do between now and next Tuesday.
Now, before we move on, just a quick reminder, if you are in Virginia, make your plan to vote yes right now at iwillvote.com/VA. You can find your polling place, lock in your plan, get the whole thing done. And for everybody else watching, those who are not in Virginia, you can help decide this election from wherever you are by scanning the QR code at the bottom of the screen. There, you can volunteer, you can make calls, you can chip in, which is especially important because that will help folks who aren't paying attention to politics, who aren't as tuned in as you all are right now, so that they can be alerted and notified in terms of what's going on this upcoming Tuesday. Because it's not just that obvious that a random Tuesday in April is going to be such an important election. Okay, now on to our next guest. We turn to something that we have seen far too much in this election, which is targeted misinformation and who's being hit the hardest. And there are no two better voices to talk about than these two leaders, both proud Portsmouth natives who've spent their careers fighting for their communities and telling it like it is. Senator Louise Lucas, who is one of my favorite Twitter follows there is. If you follow Virginia politics, you already know she is one of the most outspoken, unfiltered, and effective for decades.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much, Brian. So it looks like waiting on some of the other guests to pop into our live. So I think you already set the stage of where this conversation is going to go. As we talked about, Senator Lucas is the first Black person and the first woman to serve as President pro tempore in the Virginia State Senate. And of course, we have Delegate Scott, who is the first African American to serve as Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates. So very, very excited to talk to them both. I think AB has now joined the conversation, my sister in the law.
Hey, they found me, girl. They found me.
Yes. And I believe we also have Senator Lucas, who
Yes, can you
is
see me?
no, we would need you to come on camera so we can see your
We need to
beautiful
see
face.
that beautiful face.
Okay, Tamisha, I need to hold. Okay, I see the camera right there. Hold that for me. Hold that for me. Can you see me now?
Girl, no.
Not yet.
Oh,
Oh, there
there
you
you
go.
go. There you go,
Wow.
Senator.
Here we are in the house, in the house.
Yes. And so we're just waiting on Delegate Scott, Speaker Scott, to join. And so, as Brian has said, as I said, you guys are looking at the first African American and woman to serve as President pro tempore in the Virginia State Senate, which is an amazing historic milestone. And we are so glad to have you. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing just fine. I'll tell you what, we had a very busy day. As a matter of fact, Speaker Scott and myself had to run from one location to another to get back to get on with you all tonight. But happy to be here. We're ready to rock and roll it.
Oh, we're
Love
so
it.
happy to have you. Thank you. Thank
So
you for pulling
excited.
up on us.
Yes, we are very excited for that. And then still just waiting on Speaker Scott to join the conversation. But we can go ahead and, oh, I think here he is
There
now.
he is,
Hello.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr.
Let's do this, y'all. Yeah, we
Let's
got
talk
some work
about
to do.
it.
Let's do our black jobs.
Yes, that is really the theme of
Oh
this
my God,
segment
he's
right
getting
here.
ready to get this thing started. Oh my God.
Oh, we're getting it started because that's the theme of this segment. Because as we pointed out, we are sitting here with Black history in just right here. First African American and woman to serve as President pro tempore of the Virginia State Senate, and we have the first African American to serve as the Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates. And also, this is a D9 evening as well because
Absolutely. Got a
we
Delta
got
in the house.
we got two members of Delta
family
Sigma
affair.
Theta Sorority Incorporated. We have myself representing Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and we have Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity
yeah.
Incorporated. This is
Delta
beautiful.
Deltas be deep. We be deep. I'm so proud of us.
Oh my God, here she goes. Here she goes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So before AB is feeling herself a little bit too much and this turns into a stroll off, okay, we're just not even going to get into that. I want to kick it off with the first question, and I want to direct this to Senator Lucas. So, we're talking about you and Speaker Scott being, I mean, to be honest, just living Black history, truly. And one thing that we have seen over and over again with this entire special election is the dirty tricks that white nationalists have played with the way they are sending out these mailers. They have used all kinds of misleading information, pictures of Barack Obama, which, excuse me, to say that, oh, you should vote no on this. Even images from the civil rights movement to try to say, oh, your ancestors want you to vote no on this. What are your thoughts on all of these dirty tricks that they've been playing?
Well, I just want to start. Thank you for the question, first of all. And I want to just start by saying that I'm going to just be right up front with you. That's the only way I know to be. It's just to come right straight out with it. First of all, in public life long enough to know that a lie that's left standing becomes truth in the mind of some people. And so that's precisely the reason why the mega Republicans continue to tell lies and spread propaganda, because they know the more they tell those lies over and over again, the more likely they are to catch on and people are going to believe it. And trust me, MAGA is not confused. They know exactly what they're doing because they know that they can keep other people in the dark as long as they keep spinning these lies. And so, but what we're doing here in Virginia, we're fighting back. Let me tell you something. One of the things that Speaker Scott said, and I hold to my heart, is that we do an injustice to our ancestors if we don't stand up to this moment and do the job that is ours to do at this moment.
I love it. I'm going to give the next question to AB. I believe you have a question for Speaker Scott.
Yeah, Speaker Scott, how you doing?
And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in the fight, in the moment. It's a privilege to be
It
in
is.
this moment, in this fight right now.
Okay, I'm excited to be here with both of you. We in front of Black History. I love this. So this is my question. You both actually have spoken about how dangerous and deliberate this kind of misinformation is that's going around. I want you to break it down to the people and keep it real. Why is it so important that we confront this directly and not just allow this to go unanswered? And I know, Senator Lucas brought up the fact that, a lie could turn into the truth. But I really want you to give it to the people for real, on why they need to be paying attention and be on top of their game right now.
Well, at the end of the day, what they have done is they have re-engaged and propagated images of Jim Crow to try to trick Black people and to trick our communities. And they brought up, they brought up the name of our hero in the Black community. They put Martin Luther King Jr. on the flyer. I mean, to try to trick us. And it really shows the real impact that Black voters have. I have said that Black voters are the most important demographic in America right now. We are the ones who, when they try those tricks, we never fall for the tricks. These other communities, they come and they go to and fro, and we don't know where they're going to be when times are in trouble. But the Black community, especially Black women, they have always had common sense, and they can see a snake for what it is immediately. They don't go to and fro. They've been clear. And so it's important that we understand why they had to do what they had to do. It was the right thing to do to try to deceive Black people. Don't get it twisted. They are being deceitful. They are lying straight up and straight down. And so it's important right now in this moment in Virginia, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where the first slaves came here just a few miles from where I stand right now in 1619, that we stand up in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the cradle of the Confederacy, that we stand up in this moment and step back and speak up right now. This is the opportunity of a lifetime so that we would do justice to the legacy of our ancestors, and that we would do justice to our progeny, our children who are to come. This is the time to stand up so they don't have to have that fight. And so I'm proud to be in this moment. I'm excited. I take it as a privilege to be in this fight right now. And I'm so glad, the Senator Lucas, she gangster, y'all. Don't get it twisted. She is gangster for real. She is the OG. Okay. And so at the end of the day, when she called me way back in August, and what happened was I'm sitting there watching my TV, and the Texas folks have went around and they've done their thing, and they're in Boston, Massachusetts, and we just happened to be in Boston for a conference. And I look up on the TV, and there she is with another senator, Mamie Locke, and they in a damn press conference with the Texas delegation talking about we gonna do something in Virginia. Like, what the hell? And not only that, we're in the middle of our election. She wasn't on the ballot at the time. All of the House of Delegates was on the ballot. I was like, hold on. As soon as she left the press conference, I say, Senator, you got to slow your roll. Let me figure out what we're doing. She's like, I'm going to slow my roll for you, but we got to do something. And because of her leadership, her tenacity, her strength, her courage and determination, that's what got us here. And so we always need people like that who've been in this battle so long that can't fall for this trick. Senator Lucas has been doing this for a while. As you said, she is engaged, she is embraced, she understands legacy and the responsibility that she has to her children and her grandchildren and her great grandchildren to be standing up. This is a privilege to be in this moment right now. We got to go out and vote. Yes, we already know who they are. I was riding down the street, saw a Confederate flag waving with some no signs in the yard. I posted it because people don't believe me. We already know who they are and why they're against us.
We know exactly who they
Speaking
are.
of your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, I am a mother, a grandmother, and a great grandmother, and we're in this fight for our children. Like Speaker Scott said, every lie about this referendum must be met with truth. Every distortion, all of the propaganda must be corrected, because we are in this fight for our kids and our great grandkids, and that's being the case for me. Because if we don't, we're going to end up with rigged maps. And people are saying, okay, what you all are doing is gerrymandering. But let me tell you something. If we don't fix this now, they will continue to fix it. And if you don't think Donald Trump would like for there not to ever be another election,
right,
you better
He's
think
already
hard.
proven what he'll do. We don't have to guess about what Donald Trump will do. He did it on January 6th. He said, when they said to hang Mike Pence, he was like, I'm good with that. You know, at the end of the day, some of these senators and House of Representative Republicans, they were hiding and cowering in their seats, and now they act like they've forgotten. We haven't forgotten what he will do to keep power, and it's up to us right now to make sure that we level the playing field, keep it fair. California did their part. Texas sounded the alarm. The Democrats said, hey, we got to sound. They were like Paul Revere. One if by sea, two if by land. They were doing their thing. They did what they needed to do. They sent us a warning, and we have heeded it. California did what they needed to do. Now Virginia's going to do what they need to do. And when people always talk about, oh, Democrats are weak, they don't know how to fight back. How you like us now? We coming back, and we not taking the BS. We coming in. We standing up right now in this moment.
Right.
These are Democrats.
I love this.
Now that we're fighting, we're the bad guys because we now fight like they fight. You know what? And I tell you what, Speaker Scott and I both come from the same area, and I tell you what, we know how to get down in the mud if we have to. And if they go there, we can go there with them. But I tell you what, we're gonna come out on the winning end.
Never wrestle in the mud with a pig. You get dirty and the pig like it. We like it.
Okay. See, they said nuck if you buck. So I want to think both and ready to fight. Hey,
that should have been the president over my shoulder. That's Kamala back there. I voted for her.
I know that's right. So another member of D9, thank you very much. And so I just want to thank Speaker Scott. I want to thank President Pro Tempore and Senator Lucas for being here. And so I want to remind everybody, early voting is happening now, and it is going through Saturday the 18th, where we want you to vote yes for redistricting and fight back against the MAGA rigged maps. If you don't make it out to early voting, I really want you to. We all really want you to. I might nuck and buck if you don't. But if you don't make it out to early voting for whatever reason, you can vote on Election Day on April 21st.
Don't guess. Vote yes.
Vote yes.
Vote yes. Power to the people.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everybody doing this.
Thank you.
So good seeing y'all. All right, just a reminder here, before we move on, if you're in Virginia, make your plan to vote yes right now. iwillvote.com/VA. There you can find your polling place. You can lock in your plan. Everybody else, scan the QR code on the screen. You can make your plan to volunteer, to make calls, to chip in, which will go especially far for folks who don't know this is happening. Every little bit helps. Okay. Next up, I want to talk to, I'm going to introduce our next guests. These are two political voices that are reaching entirely different corners of the political conversation. So Ryan Getty is known for deep policy-focused analysis that cuts through all the noise. And Josiah, the creator of Pondering Politics, known for thoughtful analytical breakdowns that go deeper than the headlines. I'm going to throw it to you guys, and you can introduce your next guest here. So floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I've got Ryan Getty here, my co-pilot for the evening, and two congresspeople, two representatives, Jennifer McClellan, that I'm going to speak with, and James Walkinshaw. How are you guys?
Doing great. Excited, very excited. So thank you all for doing this.
No, 100%.
Thank you both for being here. This is a super important referendum. This is a super important time for voters to be engaged and understand what's happening and the stakes of this referendum.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, we're talking about, an actual, mounted defense of democracy in the face of Donald Trump's authoritarian push to steal an election. It's important to remember that he was the one who started this particular fight. The Democratic Party for years has tried to ban nationwide gerrymandering and redistricting. The Republican Party has eschewed every opportunity to do it because they want the right to do it themselves in Texas and red states across the country. But they expect this party to not fight back at all. And the base has been clamoring for this, guys, and you've done it. You're meeting the moment and pushing this. So, I'm curious, Congressman, Congresswoman, if you guys could talk about the significance of this referendum coming up and what it might mean for the upcoming midterms.
Yeah, I'll jump in and look. This is a huge day for Virginians, huge day for Americans coming up on Tuesday. The opportunity that Virginia voters will have on Tuesday is to level the playing field. We know that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans want a playing field that looks like this in the November midterm elections, where their candidates can run downhill and Democrats have to run uphill because their policies have failed. They've broken their promises. And Virginia voters have an opportunity on Tuesday, on the 21st, to just level that playing field out. so we can fight it out fair and square in November. I'm very confident that, especially here in Virginia, with a level playing field in November, Virginia voters are going to want to elect a Congress that will stand up to Trump, put a check on the chaos and the recklessness. But we got to deliver on Tuesday, April 21st to have that opportunity.
I got to say
Brian?
oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that you and I know everything about the uneven playing field because I live in North Carolina and you live in Texas. I was going to tee that up for you.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly where I was going. Thank you so much, Josiah. Yeah, I live in Texas. I've lived in 2 urban cores in this state. I've lived in 3 different places across 2 different cities in Texas. I've never once been represented by a Democrat. Never. Whenever I worked in the state legislature, let me tell you, I was involved with the redistricting process there. They are flagrant with it. They are flagrant. They are not ashamed. And the Democratic Party is the only party that believes in making elections fair at the national level. And the only way that's going to happen is electing more Democrats. And I just want to talk a little bit about the personal stakes. Representative Walkinshaw, your district has one of the highest concentrations of federal workers in the country. Talk a little bit about what this means personally for your district to have a Democratic majority in the future.
And sorry to interrupt really quick. Congresswoman McClellan, can you turn your camera on because it's not showing up yet?
Yeah, I'm trying and I'm getting an error message. I apologize for that. It was working before we came in, but I am part of the conversation. And
fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Representative Walkinshaw. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I represent 50 to 60,000 federal workers. There's 300,000 in Virginia. Congresswoman McClellan represents a bunch of them as well. And look, the DOGE chainsaw slashed through Virginia jobs and Virginia's economy by some estimates as many as 40 or 50,000 job losses. That's direct federal employees, small businesses, contractors who worked at USAID or Department of Education. And while Trump and Musk and DOGE were doing that, the Republican Congress, including the Republicans who represent Virginia, rather than standing up for Virginians, they were waving their pom-poms, cheering every step of the way. And Virginians know more than anyone how much damage this Trump administration and this MAGA Republican Congress have done. And part of their power grab, the reason they're gerrymandering in Texas, gerrymandering in Florida, is they want to continue doing damage to Virginia. They want to continue harming our federal workers, our small businesses, our contractors. And what we need to do to stand up to them is win in November. To win in November, we got to have a level playing field. We can deliver that by everyone getting out and voting on April 21st.
Representative McClellan, you're on camera now, so we see you and we hear you loud and clear. I'm curious, representing Virginia's 4th district, obviously the stakes couldn't possibly be higher for not just the country, but in particular, your district as well. Like, what is the effect of Trump's attacks on affordable healthcare in this country? Because besides the economy, healthcare has been one of the prevailing issues top of mind for voters across the country, particularly in the last year with the Trump administration, refusing to extend the Obamacare subsidies that President Biden oversaw. Can you explain what the stakes are for your constituents?
For a lot of us, difference between life and death. I sat through a 26-hour hearing that ultimately led to the largest cuts in Medicaid in American history. And, Virginia is a state that expanded Medicaid. And as a result of these cuts, come January 1st, over 300,000 Virginians and millions are going to lose their health insurance. We saw that because Republicans would not extend the enhanced premium tax credits under the Affordable Care Act, millions of Americans are at risk of losing that health insurance. And that's not hyperbole. We've seen already 33,000 Virginians who either didn't renew their coverage or they dropped their coverage because they just can't afford it. These are small business owners. These are farmers. These are working class people who, some of which are having to choose between, am I going to pay my healthcare bill or am I going to pay for gas? Am I going to pay for at a time when you see ground beef now costs more than the federal minimum wage? And then on top of that, first of all, you have a Secretary of Health and Human Services who's a quack, and who
He's
is
about to be a
decimating.
podcaster too, Representative. He's about to be
Too nice,
a part-time secretary, full-time podcaster. So we have that to look
Well,
forward
just
to.
don't let him near any animals of any kind. But
Yeah.
he decimated the workforce there, including, look, this is Black Maternity Week. I almost died giving birth to my daughter 11 years ago. So this is really personal to me. And the very data that is used to track our maternal health crisis, to track how well policies are working, to inform policies to address this crisis, they've been eliminated. And it's so there are hospitals that have closed. And again, Republicans will say, oh, Democrats are just fear mongering. When we said these cuts are going to cause healthcare centers, hospitals, especially in rural areas, to close. And they're like, you're fear mongering. 3 weeks after I toured a hospital and said that, 3 health clinics nearby closed, saying we're closing because of the Medicaid cuts. So millions of Americans can't afford to go to the doctor before they get sick, to keep sick. When they get sick, they can't afford to go. And he's only making it worse. And this is what's at stake. This is why we need a House Democrats in control. Speaker Hakeem Jeffries will say, we're not only going to fight to ensure access to healthcare, we're going to fix our broken system so that whether you're in rural Virginia or rural America, urban America, suburban America, no matter, where you are or who you are, you will get access to the care you need when you need it and not go bankrupt.
One of the things that's been discussed is, you mentioned the importance of having, Democratic control of Congress, and then hopefully in 2028, you pair that with a Democratic president. One of the things we hear a lot about is, whether or not there's a meaningful difference between Republican control and Democratic control. So, Congressman Walkinshaw, I'm curious if you want to speak more to that about what the American people and what Virginians in particular, but again, the American people writ large can expect from the consequences if this referendum passes and you all are eventually able to level the playing field and take control of Congress, what that might mean for the American people in the final years of Trump's presidency and then beyond with a Democratic president.
I'm in my 7th month in Congress, and it didn't take me very long to figure out what the agenda is for Trump and the MAGA Republican Congress. It's very clear and simple. The agenda is to pick the pockets of hardworking people and line the pockets of people who have the last name Trump and their billionaire buddies, right? And we see that, Jen eloquently talked about the impact of the healthcare cuts, $1 trillion taken out of Medicaid and put into the pockets of billionaires and corporations that didn't need another tax cut. Now we know that money that was taken out of healthcare is also going to drop bombs on Iran in an unauthorized, reckless, dangerous war. So it's an agenda that is hurting hardworking people, middle-class Americans, especially in Virginia when you layer on the DOGE impact on federal workers and small businesses. What you will get from a Democratic Congress and hopefully in the future a Democratic president is an agenda that's focused on delivering for hardworking people and middle-class Americans and actually bringing down the costs of their day-to-day lives, making healthcare more affordable, making housing more affordable, ending these insane tariffs that are costing the average American family $2,500 a year. I mean, we can put money back in people's pockets just by rolling back Trump's crazy, crazy tariffs that a lot of Republicans who philosophically pre-Donald Trump said tariffs were the worst idea ever. Now they're like all bought in on tariffs that are driving up costs. We need Democrats in charge to end that, put money back in the pockets of hardworking American families and Virginians especially.
Before I toss it over to Ryan, I just want to close the loop on this and emphasize that we're waiting to hear from the Supreme Court of the United States in a really important case called Louisiana v. Calais. And according to MAGA influencers like Sean Spicer, they believe, and based on the tenor of the oral arguments, it's a reasonable suspicion that the conservative supermajority will act to basically further gut the Voting Rights Act, which could also allow Republicans in red states across the South to further entrench their power by, shredding these majority-minority districts. So again, it's really important that this referendum in Virginia pass so we can level the playing field, because this right-wing Supreme Court is likely to try to screw democracy in the future. Sorry, Ryan, just wanted to throw that in there to really emphasize the stakes.
Great. I really liked what Representative Walkinshaw said there about what the MAGA Republican agenda is. It's picking the pockets of average people. We saw the kinds of people that this administration is working for. It's not the people of Virginia that lost their jobs because the Trump administration decided that they weren't important. It wasn't average Americans. It was the people who sat behind him at his inauguration, the billionaires and his family, and all the people that are making money off of this administration. And the people that are making money off of this administration aren't the people that are having to worry about gas prices going through the roof because the Strait of Hormuz is blockaded through this war of choice. It's not average people who, like Representative McClellan pointed out, can't afford to buy burgers because the president has made the whole thing cost too much with the tariffs and then this war of choice. Representative McClellan, I'd love to get you back into the conversation. Talk a little bit about, we're talking about leveling the playing field here in this referendum. But of course, the Democratic Party is also committed to leveling the playing field for average Americans. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, let me remind everybody what happened when North Carolina did and how it made a difference between what we're seeing now. Remember, Democrats were 4 seats away from the majority, and North Carolina took 3 through redistricting. So even though more Republican incumbents lost than Democratic incumbents, we were 1 seat short. Well, now we need 3 seats. And the difference was that big, ugly law that has made everyday, everybody who's just trying to live their life, who says, I just want a job that is going to pay my bills, give my kids an opportunity to get a better life than me, live in safe, healthy communities in a planet. And all of that is out of reach right now for so many Americans, rural, urban, and suburban. And in Virginia, we worked really hard over the years to expand access to healthcare, to expand access to voting, to expand fairness to people, to expand, eliminate discrimination. All of that at the federal level is under attack. And to the point about voting and the Voting Rights Act is about to be gutted, remember, this is the president who has said he doesn't want to sign another bill unless it's the Save America Act, which would require every single person to prove their citizenship before they can vote through documents that cost money, which is a modern day poll tax. And these are the same folks that are decrying us fighting back. But when you are fighting for the very future of American families, when you are fighting for American prosperity for everyone, no matter where they live or where they were born or who they love or the color of their skin, when you are fighting for our very democracy and against a totalitarian, fascist, wannabe king, you cannot fight with one hand tied behind your back while the other side is using 2 fists with brass knuckles on each one. And so they're shocked now. And our colleagues who are now crying foul didn't say peep when North Carolina redistricted, didn't say boo when Texas redistricted, didn't say a word when Missouri eliminated the 1 seat held by a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. And now they have the gall to try to lie to Black voters in Virginia and say, this is going to hurt Black voters. It's not. And don't believe the very people who are trying to dismantle the progress of the civil rights movement, including the Voting Rights Act. So that all of the progress that we have made, not in the past 4 years, not in the past 10 years, not in the past 50 years, but in some cases in the past 100 years, all of that progress is on the ballot on April 21st. When we vote yes, we will send a message. We are fighting back because we're leveling the playing field and we're going to bring our 2 fists and our brass knuckles to this fight because there's too much at stake to let you all cheat.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all being here, and thank you for all the work you all are doing.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you
so much.
All right, everybody. Before we jump to our next conversation, we want to hear from somebody who has been on the front lines of holding Trump accountable and a former Republican member of the House of Representatives. Congressman Adam Kinzinger was one of the few Republicans who were willing to stand up to Trump, and he served on the January 6th committee in the aftermath of obviously that horrific event in an effort to defend our democracy. He couldn't be with us live tonight, but he wanted to make sure that Virginians heard directly from him about what's at stake in this moment. So let's take a look.
Hey, friends of Virginia, Congressman Kinzinger here to remind you that there are only a few days left to make your voice heard and to ensure that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are not able to wield unchecked power in the House of Representatives for 2 more years. Early voting's open for just 2 more days, so Friday and Saturday, and election day is Tuesday, the 21st of April. This is your moment to show up. So across the country, there's a growing fight over who holds power and how elections are decided. What happens in Virginia right now will help to shape what comes next. I know everyone says this for every election, but this isn't just another election. It's about making sure that voters, not politicians, have the final say. By voting, Virginians have the power to protect fair representation, support a balanced system, and ensure future elections are decided on a level playing field. Trump and his MAGA Republicans have already run this playbook in Texas, North Carolina, and Missouri, and they're working on doing so in Florida as well. Now's the time for Virginians to stand up and to fight back against this desperate power grab. They know a wave is coming in November, and they know that their actions will have consequences at the ballot box, which is why they're desperately trying to do these things and these desperate tactics. At the end of the day, it comes down to something simple, that your voice matters. So make a plan. Don't wait. Go to iwillvote.com/VA right now. Vote early or show up on election day, because when more people participate, our democracy is stronger. Now is the time to make your voice heard.
All right, wonderful. Before we move on, just a quick reminder in the aftermath of that very powerful message, and by the way, a reminder of what's on the line if accountability breaks down. A quick reminder here that if you're in Virginia, make your plan to vote yes right now at iwillvote.com/VA. There you can find your polling place, you can lock in your plan. And also for everybody who is not in Virginia, very important to scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen. There you can volunteer, you can make calls, you can chip in, again, which is very important, and your money goes a long way because there are voters in Virginia right now who don't know what's going on, especially as we head toward this April 21st election day deadline here. Okay, now on to our next guests. We are continuing the conversation. We've got Congressman Eugene Vindman and Congressman Don Beyer joining us now. Congressman Vindman is a retired Army officer who served in the National Security Council. He's been a strong advocate for veterans, for national security, and for defending democratic institutions. Congressman Beyer represents Northern Virginia, a longtime business leader and former lieutenant governor who's now serving in Congress, where he focuses on economic policy, innovation, and protecting consumers. And speaking with them, leading this conversation, are two friends of mine, two voices that I am very excited to introduce. It's Luke and Tim Fullerton from the Find Out podcast team, reaching a rapidly growing audience by having real, unfiltered conversations about politics that resonate with people who don't normally tune in to traditional political media. So congratulations on what you guys are building, and happy to pass the floor over to you. I believe we are. All right, we've got.
I'm not. Oh, Brian, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, you couldn't hear me before though, right? I just rambled.
I could, yep.
Oh, you could
No,
hear
you're all
me.
good.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm getting a different message in my headphones. But anyways, it's great to be with you, and it is great to be with the two congressmen. I think we just need to turn their videos on, which congressman, it should be in the bottom left-hand corner for you, where there is right under where it says voice connected on the left, and then we can get started. We can have a race to see who gets it first. And if not, well, while we're waiting for them, Well, Luke, you and I, we've been doing the redistricting fights for a while now. We did Yes on 50 live with Brian and with Governor Newsom, which was obviously hugely successful. I think it's only because we were involved, of course.
Well, obviously, of course it was.
But this one is just as important, and I think everybody is saying like, well, it's only one seat. What is only one seat? Well, today in the House, the U.S. House of Representatives failed to pass the War Resolutions Act by one vote. One vote. It was 214 to 215. So if the new maps had been in place 2 years ago, likely had another Democrat in there, that number would have. Well, I guess it would have. No, that would have flipped it. So it just shows how important one vote can actually be. And when it comes down to these this really, really evenly divided House and of Representatives. Well, and it looks like Congressman Vindman has won the battle to get his camera on first. So it's great to see you. You have a wonderful background with you, and
It's prestigious.
Yeah, you have quite a few accolades to your name. So we're not going to make you read them all, but can you tell us, you're a new member of Congress, how important is it for this redistricting battle to end in our favor?
It's absolutely critical. I mean, I think the future of the country is at stake, and I don't want to, overstate that. But if you're unhappy with the fact that this president has taken us to war in the Middle East, in Iran, again, second time in a year, if you're unhappy with the fact that gas prices have spiked, if you're unhappy with the deployment of troops to this country, the cities of this country, it's absolutely critical, because right now what we have in the House and the Senate is a rubber stamp. They're doing nothing to restrain this president's worst impulses, and Democrats will be able to do just that. We'll be able to ask some tough questions of the Secretary of Defense, of the Director of National Intelligence. So it's absolutely critical that we win this, and we win it by making sure we win the referendum. We have only 2 days left of early voting. Last weekend, first weekend of early voting, we set records in Prince William County, which is the largest county in my district. And we have another opportunity to make our voices heard. That, for me, it's simple. Dump Trump, vote yes. Some people need to hear more. I also have the slightly filthier version, but I'm going to refrain from using the F-bomb.
I think you should kick it.
Can I?
I can kick it.
Go for it. Say fuck Trump, vote yes?
Yeah,
of course.
I don't want to say that if I can't.
Oh, well.
I think we can all join you in saying fuck Trump.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think, right. One of Luke's catchphrases is get fucked, so you're all right.
We obviously have a fight on our hands. And look, I've got some experience with fighting. I spent 25 years in the Army. And, one of the things I learned in a fight, it's hard for one soldier to make a difference, to accomplish the mission. But when one soldier is part of a team, then part of a squad, then part of a platoon, then part of a company, then part of a battalion, then part of a brigade, then part of a division, then part of a corps, and finally part of an army, you can give some pretty tough missions to an army and you can get them done. And that's what we're building in Virginia. And we're going to shape the conditions in order to make sure that we win the midterms and restrain some of the worst impulses of this president.
Right. And I'm just getting a note that Congressman Beyer, if you could turn on your video in the bottom left-hand corner where it says video connected, right under that. And there he is.
There he is.
Congressman, sorry for the technical difficulties. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, I was confused too, Congressman Beyer, so it took me a second to figure it out.
Thank you. I'm doing fine, especially if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we got you. We got you loud and clear.
We got you. So we're going to ask you. So we just had a question for Congressman Vindman, but you obviously have a lot of federal employees in your district. Like this, obviously, the effects of the Trump administration have disproportionately affected Virginia in general. But can you tell us a little bit, Congressman, about the pain that some of your constituents have faced with the Trump administration's war on federal employees?
Well, we don't have an exact number, but it's somewhere, we think, with the closing down of the contractors, in addition to the federal employees, we're pushing 40,000 people just in my congressional district. You know, we had a lot to begin with, and the challenge with the contractors was those contracts just disappeared the next day. They didn't have any fork in the road. They didn't have a 5-month runway. In the meantime, we've been doing job fairs and all kinds of clinics, even financial clinics, trying to help them out. But some people landed on their feet. Some people have gone back to work at Home Depot or the like. And some people have moved to Chicago and Atlanta and California trying to find jobs. It's been very, very hard. But, almost to the person, the things that they've complained most about is the people they're no longer serving. It was the mission that upsets them, not their personal situation.
Yeah, and I will just say I worked in the Obama administration from 2010 to 2015, and I have heard at the Interior Department, and I've had stories. I have one person in particular who worked at USGS for over 20 years and retired and is actually doing the job that you just mentioned, which is at Home Depot, and he didn't want to retire, but he couldn't stand the onslaught and the attack on federal employees that this administration has had. So with that said, Congressman, I'm going to give you the follow-up here, which we asked Congressman Vindman before. Tell to the Virginians, why is this redistricting effort so important to not only your district, but Virginia and the country as a whole?
I have the great honor of serving both on the Ways and Means Committee and the Joint Economic Committee. So I tend to look at it through the economic lens, and we're just getting hammered. That federal sales tax that Trump has done with all the tariffs have driven up the cost for the average American like $1,700, and it's worse to come. Gasoline's now gone up the fastest it has in a long, long time in just a month. I just paid $5 a gallon to fill my car last week. To fill a Ford F-150, the most popular truck in America, is $145 right
God.
now. So it's just crazy. Today, Congressman Vindman and I got to vote against what do they call it? The tax cut for working family bill. What does that bill do today? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It just renames the big, ugly, beautiful bill, billionaire bill, because they found out that the tax cut they did before was so incredibly unpopular, they're trying to rename it. It turns out that almost all the tax benefits go into the very top, as we suspected.
Thoroughly unsurprised.
No.
So out of curiosity, Tim and I, as the quote unquote influencer side, we get asked all the time about redistricting. We got asked about it when California was doing it. We got asked about it now. And I'm curious what the most common question that both of you get asked by your constituents is and what your response is to it.
Congressman Vindman, you want to go first?
Well, if not, I'll jump in.
Yeah, go for it, Congressman Beyer. Go ahead.
Only because, I led for 12 years this bill called the Fair Representation Act, which would get rid of gerrymandering. And I was an enthusiastic supporter of our constitutional amendment 4 years ago to get rid of it. But we just cannot roll over and let Trump take 5 seats in Texas, 3 or 4 seats in North Carolina, 2 seats in Ohio. God knows what they're going to take in Florida in a week or two. And one of the things that breaks my heart, one of the most beloved and distinguished members of Congress is Pastor Emmanuel Cleaver from Kansas City, one of only 2 Democrats in all of Missouri. And they're taking his district and carving it into 3 pieces so that he can't win it. Just crazy. And, we're always trying to be the good guys. We're the children of the Enlightenment. We believe in fairness, but we just cannot roll over and let Donald Trump steal the House from us with all this cheating.
Yeah, 100%. And and I'm going to turn to Congressman Vindman, who obviously a little about this Trump administration and the inner workings of it. And so, I think a lot of people will say that Democrats, as Congressman Beyer said, we're trying to be the nice guys. We're trying to be the ones that are the adults in the room. But I assume you have a different perspective when it comes to fighting back against this type of stuff, and that we have to fight fire with fire, correct?
Tim, I'm sorry. You're cutting in and out from my end. So I didn't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But the one part I did hear is you stated that I know a little bit about the inner workings of this administration. and frankly, a little too much. Having been on the White House National Security Council staff as an active duty Army officer, I saw the dysfunction, and in the first administration, it's only gotten worse now. And so what I see, I think this administration is defined by the three C's: the chaos, the cruelty, and the corruption. Right. And so you have the chaos. The president takes us to war with Iran without ever having made the case to the American people, without ever having brought the issue to Congress. This is now the eighth conflict he's gotten us into. We've got tariffs, we've got skyrocketing fuel prices, the cruelty that's killing Americans on the streets of our cities in Minnesota, and in detaining 5-year-olds. That's the cruelty, and the corruption. Corruption is the president obviously profiting, he and his family, enormously from the office, whether it's Trump coin or whether it's this Qatari jet. But that's only one form of corruption. The second form of corruption is corruption to our system, and that's why he started gerrymandering in Texas, in Ohio, in Missouri, and next week or 2 weeks from now, Florida's announced it. Right? These are backroom deals with legislators. Well, guess what? In California and Virginia, it's the voters that get an opportunity to make that choice.
Right.
And that is happening now. It's absolutely critical. Again, if we want to restrain this president's worst impulses and stop the corruption, go out, vote yes, dump Trump.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Brian, are you trying to talk? You're
muted.
I'm going to keep going. He's
all
muted, but I think
Sorry about that. Just wanted to thank everybody for being here.
yeah, no, we're happy to do. We got a few
It's
more
our
minutes
pleasure.
here. Or we transition over?
I think we're transitioning over.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congressman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you both.
Thank you, Brian, for everything.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody. Before we move on, a quick reminder that if you're in Virginia, please make your plan to vote yes right now by going to iwillvote.com/VA. There you can find your polling place, you can lock in your plan, you can get everything all set. And for everybody watching, you can help decide this election wherever you are. Just scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen. There you can make plans to volunteer, to make phone calls, to chip in any way that you can. Okay. With that said, Senator Warren has spent her career fighting to level the playing field for working families and to hold the powerful to account. From creating the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to taking on Wall Street and corporate greed in the United States Senate, she has been one of the nation's leading voices for fairness, transparency, and economic justice. And at a moment when the stakes for our democracy could not be higher, she's been clear. When politicians rig the system, it is on us, the voters, to push back. Here now is Senator Elizabeth Warren with a special message.
Here's the truth. Across the country, Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are trying to rig the 2026 midterms, grabbing power so that they can hold on to control in Washington. Look, they've already done it in states like Texas and North Carolina. They might do it in Florida next. But right now, they're trying to rig the election in Virginia. Virginia, you have the power to fight back. You have the power to stand up for democracy. By voting yes in the upcoming election, Virginians can block this power grab. They can level the playing field, and they can make sure that elections are decided by voters, not MAGA politicians behind closed doors. But time is running out. Early voting is open for just 2 more days, Friday and Saturday, and Election Day is April 21st. We need all hands on deck in the effort to vote yes to protect Virginia's independent redistricting system and to put power where it belongs, in your hands. Look, this isn't politics as usual. This is an emergency for our democracy. So please, make a plan right now. Vote early in the next 2 days or vote on April 21st. Let's fight back. Let's protect our democracy. Vote yes.
Quick reminder, if you're in Virginia, make your plan to vote yes right now at iwillvote.com/VA. For everybody watching, scan the QR code on your screen. Plan to volunteer, to make calls, to chip in. We're mobilizing voters in real time. We need you in this fight. Before we go, we want to show you something else, because this moment, what's happening in Virginia right now, is not just being felt in politics. It's being felt across culture, across the country. And people are paying attention. In fact, two voices that you definitely know wanted to speak directly to what's happening here. Take a look.
What's up, Pusha?
What's up?
I'm in your state. I'm in Richmond, VA. I got a show tonight, and I wanted to check in with you because we got to talk.
Here's what's going on. Some states are redrawing congressional maps to give Republicans more power to do what they want. Anything from funding wars to raising prices on everything.
And it worked. Texas alone is trying to flip 5 seats, and other Republican states have followed.
Exactly, John. So Virginia said, we're not going to let that happen. There's a special election on April 21st.
It's a temporary fix. This is just Virginia's way of responding to what these other states have already done. Early voting is already underway, and Election Day is April 21st. If you're in Virginia, head to iwillvote.com/VA for everything you need to vote yes.
Thanks, John. Now let's show up and vote yes, Virginia, because elections should be decided by voters, not politicians changing the rules.
All right, before we go, let's bring this back to what matters most, and that is voting yes. And you've heard it tonight from leaders and organizers, from voices reaching millions of people every single day. This moment is real, the stakes are real, and the power is yours. Virginia has a chance to do something incredible and important right now, and that is to stop a coordinated effort to rig the system before midterms even begin. An effort that Donald Trump came out and exposed, betrayed, broadcast in broad daylight. But none of that matters if people don't actually show up. So here's what you need to do. If you're in Virginia, make your plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com/VA. Make your plan to vote yes. Early voting is happening right now. You can also show up on Election Day. That's April 21st, just a few days from now. And don't just vote, bring somebody with you. This is especially important. Make sure to expand this to your circles of people. Make yourself responsible for at least one other person. If you're not in Virginia, of course, you still have a role to play. Text your friends, call your family, post about it, donate what you can. Make sure people know what's happening here. That's half the battle, because what happens in Virginia will not stay in Virginia. This is about the future of our elections and whether voters get the final say in terms of stopping Donald Trump's power grab. Thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And to Virginia, let's level the playing field. Vote yes.